look at your starting lineup for this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing for 1995. The first row, the defending National, World, and Indianapolis Speedrome champion, Jack Dalsey Jr., the number 3. Next to the former National Figure 8 champion, the number 4, Rich Fenwick. Your second row, 14, Fred Baird Jr., and the 1993 National Champion, Charlie Reed, in the number 7. The third row, defending Speedrome track champion, the 94 Speedrome champion, Rodney Sizemore, number 1, and Doug Gregg, the only driver to win in the Hoosier Legends Championship and in the National Figure 8 Championship in the same year, the number 33. Row number 4, 23, Eddie Van Meter, and the number 71 of Charles Cole. The fifth row, 9, Bill Denny Jr., and 3-time world champion Mike St. John in number 2. Row number 6, 69, R.J. Norton, and 9, Leonard Basham, a former world champion. Row number 7, 5, Robert Amos, and 87, Daniel Turner. The 8th row, number 15 of Dwayne Lee, the 80, Ronnie Clark. Then Rodney Smith, Eddie Deal, Donnie Garrigus Jr., Randy Cronenwet, David Bussey, Kevin Ford, Buddy Bertrees, Jerry Brown, Kenny Rackley, Danny Apperson, Jerry Witten, and Jack Denny. As these drivers will be starting the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, there will be dozens others who will be joining us during this championship chase. About 45 or 50 alternates in the racetrack, many of them regulars in the Indianapolis Speedrome, many of them from the Sportsdrome Speedway, many of them from the hotbed of Figure 8 Racing up in the state of Michigan, all ready for the start of this World Championship chase. The race they said could never be run, which since its inception in 1977 has become America's most unpredictable and most intense motorsports event. Pace car gets out of the way. The full power charge to the start-finish line will begin the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing as the fireworks light up the night sky. And the first leader of this race is number 3 of Jack Dalsey Jr., who's challenged in turn number 3 and passed by the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. Finishing lap number 1. Wheel to wheel for the lead. Fenwick leads to the number 4. Dalsey in second place to the number 3. Third place goes to Charlie Reed in the number 7. Fourth place to the number 14 of Bear. And now the fifth place to the number 33 of Doug Gregg. Then you've got the one of Rodney Sizemore, the number 23 of Van Meter. As sideways out of the fourth turn to finish the second lap is Fenwick to the number 4. And the number 3 of Dalsey is all over his tail. And looks for and takes the lead away in turn number 1 of lap number 3. As we close down the first of 180 minutes of full power racing. And you saw Charlie Reed in the 7th bump over the marker line. And it's still an intense 10-car fight for the lead. As 2 cars at the tail end of the lead lap just barely get through the intersection. And you saw the 0-2 of Jerry Witten join that lead group. And already our first alternates are moving on to the racetrack. Actually, as Danny Apperson, one of the starters, had to make a big pit stop and come back onto the racetrack. Neither is Dalsey as they come down to finish lap number 4. Now the second place is Bear in the number 14. Third place, right behind them, is the number 4 of Fenwick as Dalsey has lead. And then through what for the moment is an empty intersection. But Bear is on his tail along with the number 4 of Fenwick and the number 7 of Charlie Reed making up your lead pack. Interesting that Reed would run this race as Dalsey had to slow down to keep from hitting the 44 of Jerry Brown at the intersection. Reed is the number 7. Is a guy that is qualified well for this Figure 8 race, but he's had a couple of massive crashes in it. Sometimes prefers not to run the World Championship at the intersection. The 23 of Van Meter almost collided with the number 9 of Tunney, who slowed down to keep from hitting another car. Close racing as they start lap number 7 and work to the end of the second minute of 180 in this race. They're coming up to put the number 101 of Jack Danny 1 lap down. Danny stops the cause to keep from hitting Bertrees and Ford, and that allows the number 14 of Bear to attack and pass Dalsey from lead. Bear has first place coming out of the 4th turn. He becomes the 3rd leader of this race. Dalsey is hung up in traffic at the crossover and drops back to about 7th place. Leader is 14 Bear. Now you see the number 7 of Charlie Reed is running in 3rd place. The number 01 of Randy Cronenwet, one of the Michigan guys who's already gone a lap down. And there's the number 33 of Gregg and the 7 of Charlie Reed. He is your 3rd place car in close quarters racing to the 27 of Van Meter and the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. Battle for the lead. There's the number 4 Fenwick with the outside challenge on the number 14 of Bear. And Fenwick takes the lead back out of turn number 4. This entire field of cars is charging 2 and 3 abreast at every moment. We're working the 10th lap and closing down the 3rd minute of this 3-hour race. And it's still an intense maelstrom of drivers battling for position at every chance. There you see that replay coming a couple of seconds ago. There in the inset comes the number 4 of Fenwick and the number 14 of Bear cutting through the starting to get crazy here already. There are 2 or 3 cars stopped at the intersection, and the leaders go flying by. The number 4 of Fenwick and the number 14 of Bear racing side by side for the lead as we finish lap number 11 this time by in the 69 of Norton, already running near the tail end of the lead lap. Bear back to the lead as the number 84 of Garrus almost got caught up and nailed hard in the middle of that pack. Now Garrus is back underway, racing for a moment, already lap or 2 down for the former World Indianapolis Speedrome National Champion, the number 15 of playing lead. The leader is still Bear, and number 14 is teammate Buddy Burgess. The number 41 had a spin in turn number 1 and now falls 1 lap down. Ronnie Kloss at the intersection almost takes out several drivers and somehow keeps on going. Bear has the lead for number 14 as we'll finish lap number 13 this time by. We're 4 minutes into the race. There's Bear in the 14 pulling away for the number 7 of Charlie Reed. But there'll be a lot of cars in the intersection left to watch for all night long. And the number 33 of Doug Brake, the white and orange number 33, comes to the inside of Charlie Reed and looks for the position as the back of the pack comes through 3 and 4 abreast and running 3 wide for the lead. The number 14 of Bear brings with him the number 7 of Charlie Reed and the number 33 of Doug Brake. And 4th place is the 23 of Van Meter. Everybody has to stop for the number 20. Number 71 of Charles Cole, and that gives 33. Doug Brake the lead as the lead pack had to stop where that car in Cole's almost comes to the intersection again and splits up the lead pack. At the intersection, number 01 of Cronenberg has the smoke coming from his radiator. He gets restarted, and he is almost going a lap down as we look at the number 71 of Cole. The driver almost crashed out the entire lead pack. 33 Brake leads coming out of the 4th turn, finishing the 5th minute of this race as the 02 of Witten has to complete that south loop once again. Witten in the black 02 almost got nailed by the entire lead pack. Greg, I believe, is the 4th different leader of this race, and right on his tail is the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter. Greg was defeated by Van Meter at the Speedrome Speedway in the 1-hour figure-8 endurance race. Van Meter has run very well at the Speedrome. We're watching as the alternates start to come onto the racetrack. We've already seen Mike Nelson, the first alternate, is number 72 with a chance to race, and the number 75 is coming onto the racetrack. That's the car of Scott Martin. There's the number 80, Ronnie Kloss, getting caught at the intersection, having to slow up. And there's the number 08 of Danny Apperson, second-generation driver from Michigan, running into problems to the south end of the racetrack. Maybe a flat tire, he slows down and has to fall in line, running there with the number 72 of Nelson up in front. Coming out of the 4th turn, there is a black flag we saw. No, a green flag, I stand corrected on that point. The number 33 of Doug Brake holds on to the lead as the number 41 of Buddy Bertries tries to make up a lap that he lost. Bertries in the 41 is the son of Andy Bertries, who was the driver from Louisville that ran in the very first World Championship of figure-8 racing. At the intersection, Kloss almost ran into the number 9 of Fashion. Sorry, I got a little confused there for a moment. It's the 33 of Brake. Loses the lead coming out of the 2nd turn for a moment to the number 23 of Van Meter. And Van Meter consolidates the lead going into the 3rd turn. As under the night sky, the cars jostle and battle for position, especially at that dangerous intersection. You can see flashing through the leading number 23 of Van Meter in the 2nd place, number 33 of Doug Brake, working the 22nd lap, midway through the 7th minute of the 1st hour of this 3-hour race. 23 Van Meter started out in the stock class racing at the Speedrome. As we see the 41 of Buddy Bertries we were talking about a couple of moments ago. He's had trouble twice in that first turn of the figure-8 course. He's spun there once. This is the 2nd spin for Bertries. Again, Bertries is a 2nd-generation figure-8 driver. His father, Buddy Bertries, rather Andy Bertries, who operates the Louisville Motor Speedway, ran in the very first World Championship of figure-8 racing as Bertries almost takes out the number 75 of Scott Martin. There's the leader, the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter, who has run very well in America's Figure-8 Challenge. About a month ago, he ran in a 1-hour figure-8 endurance race at the Speedrome Speedway, a flat quarter-mile figure-8 track outside of Jeffersonville. 2 cars crash at the intersection. One of them, the number 14 of Fred Bear, that tears the right side bodywork off the number 14 of R.J. Norton. Bear somehow keeps on going into number 14, but Norton is out of it apparently. The number 14 of that car will not work. Now we notice that Bear has made a pit stop with the number 14. That's the 3rd or 4th year in a row that the number 14 of Fred Bear has run into problems in the early stages of the World Championship, and that collision has run out the first caution flag here midway in the 8th minute of the 1st hour of this World Championship of figure-8 racing. Norton, we just saw a crash of the crossover with the number 14 of Bear. As Bear comes on, as that's Bear's teammate Bertries, I stand corrected, the cars are almost identical in appearance. Norton started his racing in the Indianapolis Speedrome, dropped out of Speedrome competition and has run as kind of an outlaw here the last couple of years. He ran in a race in the America's Figure Eight Challenge in July at the Anderson Speedway and really embarrassed all of the regulars in America's Figure Eight Challenge. This is the first caution. The cars will line up behind the caution car under the yellow. As you glance at one of the few times that this intersection is going to be empty, but we'll come back to a full intersection here in a moment as the leaders are now working on their 27th lap, and we're closing the 9th minute of the first hour of this 3-hour figure eight endurance race. Let's take a moment to set your top cars on the lead lap as we see them. The leader is the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter. Second place, the number 9 of Bill Tenney Jr. Third place, 33 Doug Gray. Fourth place is the number 7 of Charlie Reed. Fifth place is the number 2 of Mike St. John. Sixth place will be the number 3 of Jack Dalty Jr. as we come to the restart. Seventh place, the number 4 of Rick Sedley. Eighth place will be the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. I'll give 9th place to 87 Andy Turner. And 10th place is the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore as we come to the restart. Running in the front of the field, you've got the number 23 of Van Meter and the number 9 of Bill Tenney Jr. Drivers that have run well in figure eight racing and have won lots of features, but have always run into problems in this World Championship. They're joined by the number 33 of Doug Gray, who also has never won the World Championship for figure eight racing. And the number 7 of Charlie Reed runs in 4th place. Then you've got 2 drivers right behind them who would bring them a 5 figure eight World Championship. The number 2 of Mike St. John and the number 3 of Jack Dalty Jr. Van Meter holds fourth through turns number 1 and 2. They come to the intersection, which for the moment is quiet, but they have to cut in 4 abreast racing between lap cars. The number 83 of Country Brown bumped over the marker tire and hit Van Meter, slowing him down and letting the number 9 of Teddy come to the inside and challenge for the lead. Watch the far end of the racetrack for the leaders to come out of turn number 2. There they are side by side. And cutting through a crowded intersection, the number 23 of Van Meter cuts to the inside and just barely holds onto the lead from the number 9 of Bill Tenney Jr. Now watch the right side of your screen as the number 23 of Van Meter and the 9 of Tenney cutting through heavy traffic on this little mid-mile racetrack, fighting for survival. The number 23 of Van Meter holding on to the lead by 2 lengths over Tenney's number 9. We'll make the note that ever since he was involved in that crash with the 69 of Norton, the 14 of Bear, the third start in this race has not come back. Van Meter continues to hold on to the lead by maybe a length or so over the 9 of Tenney coming on the second turn. Van Meter had to slow down and cutting to the inside and taking the lead away is Tenney as they have to split the number 02 of Jerry Witt. Tenney becomes the 5th leader of this race if he can hold on to it as they have to split around the 42 car in the intersection, and Tenney consolidates first place. No surprise that Bill Tenney Jr., who started back in position number 9 in this race, would come to the front in a hurry. Now, you see the cars charging through the intersection. Mike St. John addressing the turn to the inside of the number 3 of Jack Dalty Jr. and the leader, Tenney, and the number 23 of Van Meter escapes disaster as 5 cars came charging to the intersection almost simultaneously, and the leaders were lucky to be able to split around them. That's the challenge of the World Championship for figure eight racing, that you have to be able to cut through the traffic, not only lap traffic, but traffic that is running through the crossover, literally at cross directions and cross purposes too. He watches the field, works down the 36th lap of this race, and the leaders have to watch out for heavy crossover traffic. Here you can see the big pack of cars, which is led by the number 2 Mike St. John, your 3rd place car. That's most of the pack that's coming through the intersection, and there was a narrow gap for the leaders. The top 3 from 2 drivers coming through. Coming out of the far turn, there's the 9 of Tenney and the 23 of Van Meter. Again, they find a gap going into the 3rd turn as they overlap the number 27 of Eddie Deal. Deal, who got a transfer position to the main event through a qualifying race on Friday night, had to borrow a motor after blowing his engine earlier. He borrowed it off from Trouble Racer, and he said, but Deal is left behind, leaving Tenney in 9 and the number 23 of Van Meter to fight it out for first and second place. They will watch the crossover this next time by. This time it's going to be a crowded crossover. The leaders will have to be quick, and they find a tiny gap between the 7 of Charlie Reed and the number 15 of Wayne Lee. And now the intersection, number 41 of Birchby stops as leaders charge through again. Birchby showing some smoke and steam from his car, and Birchby just barely gets through the intersection. There's going to be a lot of close escapes, and sometimes the drivers may not make it through. The leaders are working their 40th lap, and we're closing down to the end of the 13th minute of this 3-hour figure eight endurance race. As the number 4 Finley, the driver that is still running strong on the lead lap, had to stop to let the leaders go on the route. wheel to wheel. Coming out of the fourth turn are the number 71 of Coles, who's already spun, and the number 9 of Teddy was now put Coles another lap down. Now Teddy is addressing the number 11 of Kevin Ford and has to slow down for that traffic, and just barely getting through are the leaders to that second or third pack of cars. There are a lot of guys that are racing on the tail end of the lead lap that are jostling each other hard for position, and they're the better part. Until Teddy got hit, spun out by Ford in turn number 1 in the sort of infield contact that will fill up this World Championship race. And Teddy gets back underway, but he has fallen to second place, and now is in the clutches of the third place number 2 of Mike St. John, and the fourth place number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Teddy had the lead and then went into the first turn, got clipped by Ford, the driver with whom he'd been racing for a lap or so to try to put another lap down in that white number 11. All of that happened a lap or so ago. As watch out, as the number 87, James Turner, you saw in that blue car, just barely get through the intersection ahead of those drivers running second, third, and fourth. In fact, that split Tony away from the third place 2 of St. John and the fourth place number 3 of Dawson. There's the 25 of Kurt Bilbrey looking for some place to go. And the number 12 of Charlie Oaks now being passed by the number 9 of Teddy, who is your runner-up car and is about 1 turn behind the leading number 23. And Teddy, who is probably the bravest driver of all in the intersection, ran into his problem going into turn number 1. There's some people who say that tight turn number 1 is the most dangerous part of this figure 8 course. As the maelstrom continues at the intersection, flying back and forth, time and time again, the leaders are trying to make things work, and they just barely do. Sonny comes to the intersection. Then you've got the number 9 of Leonard Basham. 2 cars have collided over in turn number 1. The number 18 of Rodney Smith and the number 83 of Country Brown. Brown keeps on going. Rodney Smith in the 18 car maybe stalled in the middle of the first turn. We're staying under yellow, rather under green for a moment. Now Rodney Smith is always waving to the flag man, lobbying for yellow, and he gets it as Rodney Smith will release the brakes and let the car drift down the bank just a bit. Rodney Smith, who was the guy that started 17th in this race, involved in the contact and collision with Country Brown, bringing out the second caution in this 3-hour race. This happening midway through the 15th minute, and now the leader is working on his 47th lap, and for the second time, the drivers have a chance to rest for a moment. We mentioned the alternates in this race. A lot of those alternates have been placed onto the racetrack. We glanced just for a moment there at the pink number 779 of Ray the Animal Gaddis as the number 18 of Rodney Smith, the driver whose family comes from Alabama and claims the same sort of Alabamian racing heritage as the Allison family. In fact, that family in Alabama lives not far away from the same Talladega Super Speedway, and when they're down there, when they used to live down there, they used to make a lot of money selling things to race fans. Leader on this yellow as we work the 48th lap and midway through the 17th minute of the first hour, there's the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter, the leader, who's already put the Danny Apperson number 08 car a couple of laps down. The 3 of Dawsey, that car is currently running in third place. As we get set for the restart here in a couple of circuits, one of the cars is having trouble over in the second turn. As you see, the field is under yellow. The number 4, Rich Fenwick, who is looking to win this race, has been running on the lead lap, stalled for a moment, now gets restarted. You saw him cut through the intersection in the white and blue number 4. And there's Fenwick coming over the top side of your screen, coming back to rejoin the field and get set to restart at the tail end of the lead lap. But a hesitation at this point of the race does not eliminate you from contention to win. That first big car you see with the big flashing yellow lights is the pace vehicle. It is a Dayton chassis race car, which we have transformed into a police vehicle, a utility emergency vehicle here at the Speedrome. We go to the restart and begin lap number 49. 23 Van Meter has lead. Sonny, recovering from a spin, is working into second place. And those drivers are pulling ahead on the battle for third place, which is now won by the number 3 of Dawsey and the pink number 3, but they're about a couple turns behind. There comes Van Meter in 23 and Sonny in 9. Behind them, a hot fight for third place. There's the pink number 3 of Dawsey flashing through your screen. Dawsey has just taken the third spot, and there's Dawsey coming across the screen in the 3. There's the 4th place 2 of St. John. Then the 9 of Basham. There's the number 15 of Twain Lee, the 1 of Rodney Sizemore through the camera shot, and back to your leaders as we work the lap number 52. 23 Van Meter and the 9 of Teddy going into turn number 3 of lap number 52, 18 minutes into into this race. Those drivers who continue to run nose to tail, there's some caution and frustration. John Curtis, Indianapolis Speedrome regular, the 11th alternate is the number 63. People onto the racetrack and the car stalls. He's out of the race before he gets going. At the intersection, Cole got sideways in the 71 to keep from crashing out the leaders. And here's embarrassment. Right centered on the marker tire at the north end of the racetrack is the number 779 of Ray Gaddis. Gaddis, the Michigan driver who was leading above 45 alternates in this race, is high centered on the track. The frame of his wheels are on that marker tire, which is an old truck tire, and he can't move. The rear tires are not touching the ground. So the motor will run under full green as we watch to see if Gaddis can get that car out of the way. But here's the leaders running at full speed regardless of what happens to Gaddis. On lap number 55, 23 Van Meter and 9 Teddy. Finding a little gap in the intersection. Caught up in the, oh no, the number 3 of Jack Dawson Jr. just went one lap down. The number 3 of Dawson got caught in the intersection with the number 2 of Mike St. John. Dawson did an extra southbound loop, and Dawson, the defending race champion, made an extra southbound loop in the pink number 3 and just put himself one lap down. That's an important thing to remember. The Dawson, who got caught in traffic, decided not to stop, but instead put himself one lap down as the lead is now being battled for in turn number 2 of lap number 56. Coming out of the far end, there's the number 9 of Teddy, who has taken the lead back to the number 23 of Van Meter. Going into the third turn, as Mike St. John almost gets nailed in the intersection, it'll be a crowded crossover. Where will the leaders go? But almost run into the stop. Number 83 of Country Brown. And Country Brown is having trouble getting the car restarted. I think he may have the car running, but the 83 of Country Brown stuck in the intersection, doesn't know where to go, almost got hit by the leaders. Now the 27 of Eddie Deal stops for a moment, and he gets restarted. As we'll come down to yellow, because there are too many cars stopped, too many cars in weird places. Number 27 of Eddie Deal slowed down and stopped. There's the number 84 of Donna Garrigus Sr. Garrigus in that black number 84 started 19th but ran into problems almost immediately. Stalled at the south end of the racetrack with what looks like a big oil leak from the car. Now it's been pushed into the infield by the 83 of Country Brown. Remember how it was crowded in the 83? That hit spun out the number 9 of Sonny, and Sonny fell back to second place. Sonny has stormed back from that in this latest restart to take the lead as we're closing down to the end of the 21st minute of the first hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Trouble at the intersection is the number 44 of Bugsy rammed the number 9 of Leonard Baxter. But we get restarted anyway with the number 9 of Sonny and the number 23 of Van Meter battling for the lead. Van Meter makes the inside move on Sonny going into number 1. Third in your shot is the number 41 of Hertries, who's several laps down. The third place car is actually the number 2 of Mike St. John. Sonny leads number 23 Van Meter second, and number 2 St. John runs third. There's your fourth place number 15 of Dwayne Lee coming through the intersection and starts to get crowded once again. As some guys try to get through, other guys stop. Watch for the number 38 of Rackley as the field comes out of the fourth turn. Rackley stalled there for a moment as the field fans out 5 abreast behind the leading number 9 of Sonny. And we come down to yellow once again. Caution is displayed because I guess things just got a lot more crazy than anybody expected. As we come to the green flag, and the number 23 of Van Meter once again comes to the lead. Just then is the number 9 of Teddy, the number 2 of St. John, and there's the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Just then is Curtis Murphy, 74, and number 02 of Jerry Whitten. Those drivers are not on the lead lap anymore, as the battle is for the lead. as St. John and Tunney split around at the intersection that will for a moment stop number 10 car of Wayne Newkirk. Top three drivers are out. 9 Tunney, 2 St. John, and 15 Wayne Lee. Trouble for the number 23 of Van Meter, who got caught out on that restart. Van Meter is going slowly as if he's got himself a flat tire on that car. And Van Meter, who had the lead, now goes one lap down to the number 23, just trying to make laps. The right front corner of Van Meter's car looks as if it was damaged on that restart. And so as Van Meter slows down and looks for some place to stop, actually it's difficult to tell where Van Meter's car may be damaged. He's simply off the pace as far as we can tell. 9 Tunney has the lead. The numbers 2 St. John in second, and third place the number 15 of Wayne Lee. Let me correct something that I said earlier. Our race officials will review what happened to Dawsey when he cut to the south side of the racetrack and made an extra southbound loop. And they are telling us that Dawsey in the number 3 is still on the lead lap. I stand corrected. They're telling us that Dawsey in the number 3, the defending champion, is still on the lead lap. As the 41 anniversary is almost into the Cole's car, and the number 15 of Wayne Lee just finds a tiny gap in the intersection. The lead now belongs to the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. as outrun the number 2 of Mike St. John. The number 15 of Wayne Lee, the third place car. Now there's the number 10 car, the blue number 10 of Wayne Newkirk. In forward press racing is the number 9 of Leonard Basham. Got hit on that last sequence, and the former world champion from Jeffersonville has pulled off the racetrack and out of the contest. It looks as if Brett Mayer may be coming back on the racetrack, so that's the number 55 of Mike Gaskin, one of the ultras putting onto the track. Heavy traffic are a group of drivers, all including the number 9 of Tunney, the leader of the race. And Tunney is trying to move up in front of the number 33 of Doug Gray. One lap down, and Gray was leading this race not that long ago. And Tunney's within just a few lanes of putting the lap down. At the intersection is the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, as a narrow escape from Mike St. John's number 2 and the number 95. And Tunney hits the marker tire, runs over it, and almost bumps into the number 83 of Country Brown. It's the second time those drivers have collided in this race. The first time it took the number 9 of Tunney out of the lead. And now Tunney puts Brown one lap down, but there's a lot of heavy traffic ahead of Tunney, including drivers still on the lead lap, including the number 33 of Doug Gray, who had the lead in this race. And Tunney has to slow up the intersection to keep from hitting the 1994 Speedrome champion and the number 1, Rodney Sizemore. There's the number 9 of Leonard Basham coming back to the racetrack after making a quick pit stop, and the speed coming out of the 4th turn. The 95 of Tim Gibson getting back underway. Gibson is caught out by some heavy traffic and has to wait for everybody else to get out of the way. That's right, they did make Tim Gibson stay on the bumper of her starter. She stayed waiting with Tony Anderson in the number 42. Anderson in that black number 42 is running in his first ever World Championship of figure 8 racing. He is one of the drivers who has come a pretty good sized distance to run. He is a regular of the Louisville Motor Speedway as Anderson in that black number 42. Here comes the leading number 9 of Tunney out of the 4th turn, watching for another Louisville Speedway regular. Hertries in the number 41 car as they come to the intersection, coming out of the 2nd turn. In the distance and now moving closer is Tunney's yellow and white number 9, and we notice that Tunney is now put the number 33 of Doug Gray one lap down. At the intersection, Tunney just almost gets the number 12 of Oates. Tunney has the lead in the number 9. Second place is now the number 15 of Wayne Lee. In third place is the number 2 of Mike St. John. Fourth place, some distance back, is the number 3 of Dawsey. I'll give 5th place to the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. I'll say 6th place is the number 4 of Rich Fenwick, and I'll say the 7th place is the number 87 of Danny Turner. By my unofficial reckoning, those are all of the cars and drivers who are currently running on the lead lap. At the intersection, Turner just barely got between the Country Brown and the number 83, number 33 of Doug Gray. Amazing how Gray's fortunes have changed here over the last few laps. Gray in that white and orange number 33 was running in the lead, but now is falling one lap down. Losing a lap in this early stage of the World Championship does not hurt you that much, but you want to stay within a couple of laps of the lead, at least have a chance to win. There's number 80 of Ronnie Plotz. That's a wild-looking machine. Plotz has just come back to racing here in the Indianapolis Speedrome over the last couple of weeks. And there's the number 9 of Tunney still up in front. That car has already got beat and bashed up a bit. Tunney, in fact, had that car all but totaled out when he was in a 5-car crash in an oval race a while back, a few weeks ago in the high-speed quarter-mile high-bank Anderson Speedway. But Tunney, who has come so close to winning this World Championship, is in as good a shape in this race as he ever had. Tunney Teddy, however, has a way of bumping into guys every now and then. Let's see if he comes to the intersection in one piece. He got through the crossover just ahead of Ray the Animal Gaddis. Been closing down to the end of the 48 minutes of the races in traffic jam. Close into the third turn. And the leader, Teddy, goes into turn number 1 and 2 of his, 3 and 4 rather, of his 61st lap. Has to watch out for a traffic at the intersection. Hesitates and lets the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, your second place car, and the number 2 of Mike St. John running in third place go through. In fact, Teddy has the entire field at least 1/2 lap down. Watch out, trouble, as the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore hit the wall over in turn number 3. Butts hit the wall in number 3, and that also almost took out the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. Rodney Sizemore's thinking about making a stop in the number 1. Butts crashed in turn number 3. The number 1 of Rodney Sizemore has to make a stop as well. Rodney Sizemore has been running on the lead lap of the number 1. And also just barely getting restarted, the number 27 of Eddie Deal. Remember, Deal is running on a Barlow motor in that number 27 car. Now 29 minutes into this 180-minute race. The leader is still the number 9, Bill Tenney Jr. He has himself a substantial lead as cars almost collide at the intersection again. It gets wild every time you look. And here's Tenney putting the number 5 of Robert Amos 1 lap down. And Tenney has himself a huge advantage over the second place 15 of Dwayne Lee, who just now comes across the start-finish line 6.9 seconds ahead of the number 2 of Mike St. John. In turn, those drivers have a big advantage over the 4th place number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. I'll call those drivers the only ones left on the lead lap. The number 779 of Ray the Animal Gaddis almost takes out St. John and Lee on the intersection. Lee in the number 15 gets going again for one of the largest, most fearsome bumpers we've ever seen in the world of figure 8 racing. Now, St. John had to hold up and almost got hit by Dawsey and Tenney, as Dawsey in the number 3 car, the defending 2-time world champion, is in danger of going 1 lap down to Bill Tenney Jr. And Tenney is dominating this race so far in a way that we really could not have anticipated. We knew that Tenney was going to come to the front. We didn't know that Tenney was going to dominate the race in which he has. Tenney goes into the first turn, almost ready to put the number 3 of Dawsey 1 lap down, 30 minutes and 15 seconds into this race. There comes the number 2 of Mike St. John, 11.4 seconds back. In third place is Dwayne Lee. Used that big bumper to good advantage. He ran into the number 25 of Kurt Bilbrey. The team welded a huge bumper on the front end of Dwayne Lee's car, but there's crowded crossover and cars are stopped, as here's the number 15 of Dwayne Lee coming across in second place. Gap between first and second place is an amazing 15 seconds. There's trouble at the intersection. The number 9 of Ashton is trying to get out of the way of the number 63 of Curtis, and here comes the leader, 920, getting 3. Dawsey caught behind 27 Beal, and now Dawsey, the defending world champion, is definitely 1 lap down. So Tony is really decimating the field here in the early stages of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Tony, a second-generation driver, and his dad ran here a lot, and his brother, Bruce Tenney, was always a contender in this World Championship and was an Indianapolis Speedrome track champion. Tenney has the lead on my stopwatch of 16.1 seconds. Now Dawsey is awake at the number 3. Here's where the race is. Dawsey, the number 3, is trying to get back on the lead lap and back around Tenney. But at the intersection, Tenney keeps on going, and so does Dawsey, as there's all sorts of bizarre things happening out there. At every turn, there's a collision like that one between the 55 of Mike Haskett and the number 16 of Jay Waiter, from which those 2 drivers disengage and keep on racing. But we're only 31 minutes and 47 seconds into this race of 180 minutes, and already there are only 3 drivers that I can detect on the lead lap. 2 cars collide in turn number 1. One of them is the number 63 of Curtis, who we saw in trouble at the intersection. The other one, just now getting away in number 42, is Tony Anderson. Curtis, the Speedrome regular, and the white number 63. Anderson in the black number 42, a regular of the Louisville Motor Speedway. Curtis is okay. He's far enough out of the way. We'll continue to run under full green. We will also notice that the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore has now moved back onto the racetrack after making some fast repairs after we got caught up in Ronnie Kwanzaa's crash over in turn number 2. And Rodney Sizemore has lost a couple of laps. Also in trouble and stopping on the racetrack is one of the leading Michigan drivers, Randy Cronenweth, in the number 01, who stopped on the oval backstretch area. Through all of this, the best race on the track for position that we can spot is the one for second place. For the moment we watch, there it is, the number 01 of Randy Cronenweth, that driver we mentioned a while ago, who had stopped on the racetrack trying to get restarted. The 9 of Cunning continues to run all over this field. Cunning is now risking everything in the intersection, trying to literally lap the field here in the first hour of the 3 hour. 3 cars crash in the intersection. The 10 of Newkirk, the 27 of Deal, the 95 of Gibson. And now Newkirk has stopped the number 10. Almost got hit by the leader. Almost got hit by Dalsey. This is dangerous. Newkirk in the number 10 has stopped in the middle of the track and will bring the reel down to yellow. Newkirk of the blue number 10 got involved in a quick 3-car crash, and still there are cars almost running into Newkirk's machine. Newkirk collided with the number 27 of Deal and the number 95 of Gibson. Gibson and Deal kept on going. Newkirk's number 10 is stalled. There are 2 drivers, at least 2 drivers on this racetrack who were overjoyed to see that yellow come out, as we see Cronenweth make a pit stop and Deal. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee and the number 2 of Mike St. John were within a couple of car lengths of going 1 lap down to the rampaging Cunning in number 9. But now they'll have a chance to go around to the tail end of the lead lap. There are some good cars that have run into problems in the early stages of this race. A lot of adventures that have seen the number 71 of Charles Coles, for example, with that big T-tray roof wing run into problems. And some other things have been going wild, but Cunning has put everybody 1 lap down. As, what was that guy in the pink hair, you might wonder, in that Jeep? That's Jimmy Smith, Vincent, who is one of the track workers here at the Indianapolis Speedrome, and has a clown uniform that he dresses up in. There's a guy from Missouri, the Speedo, the Speedway Clown, who encountered Jimmy Smith down in Florida, and there's another one of our track officials picking up various big parts and pieces from the race car. It'll be 3 abreast on the restart as Cunning breaks from between the lap cars 41 of Bertries and 42 of Anderson, and now puts Ray the Animal Gaddis the lap down in number 70-79 yet again. Sonny holds on to the lead as we glance for the race for second place, which sees the 15 of Lee just ahead of the number 2 of Mike St. John. As we see the number 16 of Jay Wayner storm into the pit area, we can take a moment here to give you your top 10 as we see the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter is back on the racetrack. Van Meter lost a lot of laps. He, remember, was one of those drivers that led the race in the early stages before he started to run into some serious problems. The leader was the number 9 of Cunning. Second place for the moment is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. But Lee is in a hot pitched battle with the number 2 of Mike St. John, who currently runs in third. Fourth place is the number 3 of Jack Dalton Jr. Fifth place is the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. Sixth place is the number 4 of Rich Benwick. Seventh place is 87 Danny Scherr as the number 3 of Jack Dalton Jr. 1 lap down, tries to get back to the lead lap, but he's the better part of a half lap behind. Dawsey, who is the defending champion of this race, going through 3 in a row and having a lot of trouble in the early stages. We had mentioned that number 87 of Danny Turner was your 7th place car, and 8th place is the number 33 of Doug Gray. Your 9th place runner is the number 5 of Robert Ingram. 10th place is the number 71 of Charles Cole. 11th place is the number 44B, the blue 44 of David Bussey. 12th place is the number 08 of Denny Apperson, the Michigan driver. There's the number 41 of Bertries waiting in the intersection. Is the number 23 of Van Meter is racing the number 4 of Fenwick, but those guys are not racing the position. As Sonny made another miraculous escape going to the intersection. I don't know how Sonny got across the front of that phalanx of cars that was coming through at full speed. As before, Sonny holds on to a massive advantage, working his 110th lap. And Sonny, over these last few laps since the most recent restart, has pulled out a good advantage over the second place number 2 of St. John, the third place number 15 of Dwayne Lee of 10.6 seconds. This is the best race on the track right now. Tunney in the number 9 is thoroughly dominating racing as he cuts inside the number 27 deal and the number 71, and he actually hit the number 71 car while Cole's coming through the intersection and kept on going somehow. Tunney has already escaped a couple of those scrapes, including one where he got spun out by the number 83 of Country Brown. But Tunney somehow keeps on going, somehow keeps persevering as he makes a lot of narrow escapes. But the more chances you take at the crossover, and Tunney lost it that time as he hit and spun out number 41 of Buddy Vertrees at the intersection. Vertrees may have stalled the 41 car at the crossover, but Tunney with a bent front bumper keeps on going as Vertrees is crossways in the intersection. He got hit hard by Deal, who almost flipped over the Vertrees car as we bring out the caution. Vertrees was sideways in the middle of the track. Everybody got around him except Deal, who hit the right side of the car and flipped over Vertrees' machine. Yellow comes out as the track workers quickly check out Vertrees to find out if he's okay. John Mims, the USAC safety worker, is over there along with Jimmy Smith, checking out Buddy Vertrees, the number 41. Another couple of track workers are checking out the number 27 of Deal. Deal at the time of that crash had been running back in 28th place, and Vertrees was running in 15th place. Both of those drivers had done well in their qualifying races. Deal had started in 18th place, and Vertrees, the number 41, had started 23rd. The emergency rescue workers will come out here to check out Buddy Vertrees just in case. And they're also checking out Eddie Deal, who very slowly, very gradually is going to get out of his car after that hard hit. You would have thought the guy that had the hardest hit would have been Vertrees, but Deal is also feeling a lot of that impact as well. Midway through the 42nd minute of our first hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Deal's out of the car and starting to catch his breath. Vertrees is being checked out in his car. Indication is Buddy Vertrees is out of the car. He's okay.
Shaken and stirred.
They are shaken up by the impact, but they are all right. As Buddy Vertrees kind of holds on to John Mims and says, I'm okay, and he stalks away. Buddy Vertrees has just survived as hard a hit as you would ever want in a figure 8 car. This driver, who returns to the place where his father raced in a figure 8 world championship back in 1977, Vertrees will survive to race again, most likely back at his dad's track, the Louisville Motor Speedway. Once again, let's try to call up our good friend, Larry Harris, back in the pit area. Larry, what you got to pass on to us?
All right, we got a couple of here.
Go ahead. Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
So Ed went over here and loaned me a couple motors. And M&M Automotive, those guys were great. They put us a motor together. But they just didn't go for it tonight, unfortunately.
And Fred Bear is out of the race. So is Eddie Deal at number 27. Eddie Deal is one of those rare families that has run in more than one type of racing here at Indianapolis Speedrome. Eddie's brother Fred, who still prepares the figure 8 car, a few years ago ran the United States Auto Club Vision at the USAC Weekly Series. Deal is a metal worker here in town. He does a lot of work to get this car back together. He and his brother have something like 4 sets of body work on this car. Deal is going to be able to walk away from this in one piece, and who knows, after resting for a moment, perhaps Deal and the family will get this car put back together and try to race again. It's the determination of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing that sees the guys try it over and over again. Again, to quickly set your top 10 as we get set for the latest restart. And again, minute number 42. Leader 9, Bill Dunning Jr. Second place, 15, Wayne Lee. Third place, 2, Mike St. John. Fourth place, 3, Jack Dawson Jr. Fifth place, 4, Rich Fenwick. Sixth place, 87, Eddie Turner. Seventh place, 33, Doug Brigg. Eighth place, the number 5 of Robert Amos. Ninth place, Omar Rodney Schreiber. On 10th place, the number 71 of Charles Cole. Only those top 3 drivers, 9 Teddy, 2 St. John, and 15 Wayne Lee, run on the lead lap as we're midway through the 45th minute of this race. We're 1/4 of the way to the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. They've already sent a large number of the alternates onto the race. We've already gone through about 21 or 22 alternates in this contest. Number 71 of Charles Coles is in trouble at the south end of the racetrack, and the 55 of Mike Haskins might have gotten clipped by the number 5 of Amos. No, Haskin in the 55 car has a flat tire on the right rear. He will be out of the race. Will bring out a yellow to push Haskins number 55 out of the way. Although Haskin won't need a push, he'll simply drive that car off the track, shredding the right rear tire all the way as he makes a pit stop. Now, as the drivers are starting to jostle for position on this restart, you notice that the number 4 of Fenwick insisted on getting to the front of the field along with the number 9 of Teddy. Fenwick, uncertain, figures that this is his best chance to try to get back near the lead lap. Now, by our reckoning, Fenwick is a lap or so down. Fenwick in the white number 4, the defending National Figure 8 champion, who won it in 1994. Well, where's Amos going? Amos with a 5. Cut through the intersection right behind the number 9 of Teddy. You should have seen it. Amos cut through the crossover like somebody who was impatient to run across holiday traffic at a shopping mall. In fact, that's what a lot of this resembles. Finishing minute number 46. Finishing 120th lap. Fenwick in the number 4. Attacks to the inside of Teddy, trying to get a lap back. And there's the number 2 of Mike St. John, who a few minutes ago nearly went a lap down. Now racing with the number 9 of Teddy for the lead. Fenwick has got one of his laps back from Teddy. Now, 2 Mike St. John and the number 15 of Wayne Lee are up to race with Teddy again for the lead. And Teddy, not that long ago, almost put those drivers 1 lap down. Coming out of the second turn of the 122nd lap, Teddy now pulls away from St. John and Wayne Lee and closes up on Fenwick. Heavy traffic in the intersection, and Teddy finds a gap just ahead of Whitten and Frost and keeps on going. The driver that's in first in this race shot is the number 4 of Fenwick, who's a lap or so down. The leader is the second car, the white and yellow number 9 of Teddy. Teddy has a lead of about 3 lanes over the number 2 of Mike St. John, who in turn has 2 lanes over the number 15 of Wayne Lee. Those drivers go flying into the first turn, into the middle of heavy traffic that stacks up 4 wide. Teddy takes the chance to the intersection. He found a tiny infinitesimal gap between Curtis Murphy and the number 12 of Charlie Oak's cars and kept on going. What you just saw is the primary reason why Teddy is called the man with no fear. There was no room at the intersection, and Teddy kept on going. Not only did he keep on going, he put the number 4 Fenwick again another lap down in the process. That's where Teddy is discouraged from. But you notice that, watch out in the intersection, as Teddy makes it go again. A side-swiping crash between the 1 of Sizemore and the 98 of McMurtry almost takes those cars out again. If you keep on taking those chances in traffic, eventually the traffic will catch up to you. And when you're running in a 3-hour figure 8 endurance race, there are so many things that can go wrong and only a few things that can go right. As Teddy holds on to the lead in 4 abreast traffic, Teddy cuts down to the inside, barely finds some racing room as he cuts underneath the 18 of Rodney Smith. The number 4 Fenwick and now bounces over the number 26 of Bilberry after overtaking the number 75 of Scott Martin. We're getting closer and closer to the end of this first hour of figure 8 racing, and already we've had so much intense and dramatic action. And as they constantly run 3 and 4 abreast, as Teddy runs over the marker tire and bounces off the number 69 of Town, moves into the third turn, and is quickly being challenged by the number 4 of Fenwick, who wants to get a lap back. But first they have to deal with Garrigus in 84, Gaddison 779, and the number 32 of Whitaker. It is really intensely, thoroughly insane out there. Slowing down and trying to come off the track is the number 98 of McMurtry. McMurtry is caught and trapped by a dozen cars that go flying around him, and McMurtry had to stop. And now Van Meter in 23 coming off the racetrack in the shower of sparks after his left front suspension failed. He's out of the way. We'll keep on going. 49 minutes into this race, working the leader's 130th lap. Tunney has the lead. It's a lead that has increased since the restart. At the restart, the two of St. John and 15, I believe, are right on his tail. But now, Tunney has pulled about a turn or two ahead of these drivers. As Fenwick is trapped at the intersection by a moment by the number 12 of Oates. We'll use a stopwatch, the gap between first and second place.
66 cars and 21st dollars.
The gap between first and second place is 3.9 seconds. So far, 66 cars and drivers have been given the chance to run in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. The 21st alternate, Ken Carpenter, has been moving. Make that 49 cars have been allowed to run. The 50th car would be Dennis Wistman in the red 1W, the Michigan Figure 8 champion. As we mentioned, in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, it's one of the few events in which you'll have more cars at the end of the race than at the beginning. 28 cars start this race, and then you have 45 alternates in the middle, moving as this race as the number 9 of Tunney. Now moves around the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, but now running with Sizemore, trying to keep up with Tunney, is the number 5 of Amos. And Robert Amos, one of 2 brothers, actually 3 brothers that races here on a regular basis in the Indianapolis Speedrome, one of them being Sheriff's Deputy Russ Tuttle, trying to keep up with Tunney. Tunney stops, almost stops the intersection, has to watch out for the 71 of Coles and keeps on going. Working in the middle of the 51st minute of the first hour of this race. Tunney is dominated. Anybody else so far tonight in Indianapolis Speedrome, a night that has seen 5 drivers lead this race. And Tunney on my stopwatch will get the gap between first and second place. It'll be something of a wait because the 2 of St. John comes across the stripe 6.9 seconds back. And in third place and challenging hard, the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Over the last sequence of racing, that's been the best fight on the racetrack for second place between St. John and the number 2 and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. These are 4 Figure 8 championships between these drivers, 3 for Mike St. John, 1 for Dwayne Lee. And these drivers, racing about a half lap behind Tunney, have been fighting hard for the lead, and now they envelop Tunney there at the crossover as Tunney continues to race hard. Midway in the 52nd minute of this race, heavy traffic as Tunney is almost into the intersection by Dwayne Lee's car. There are 3 or 4 cars that are stopped at the intersection. That's pretty standard for this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. As we see St. John and the number 84 of Gary has sandwiched the number 75 of Scott Martin. And the leader is trying to cut through that traffic. Watch out, here's Tunney almost bouncing off Scott Martin, almost hitting Mike St. John, almost hitting him by Dwayne Lee. Another lap completed, a typical lap of Figure 8 Racing for Bill Tunney Jr. Tunney had to check up to keep from hitting Coles in the crossover that time. And Coles has already had as many adventures as Tunney has, spinning 3 or 4 times. And Tunney almost runs into Coles. Hits Coles right over the marker tire. Tunney almost launched his car into midair, trying to put Coles another lap down, and took the chance of ripping out the bottom of the motor. And Tunney hits Coles, hits him in the back end, coming out of turn number 4, and somehow Tunney keeps on going. And 2 or 3 cars stop at the intersection, including Steve Cross, number 71. And we keep on rolling at full speed. And there's Tunney finding a gap, following the number 12 Charlie Olson will come down to yellow. I believe the reason for the yellow is the number 32 of Bob Whitaker. Whitaker is stalled in a precarious position coming out of the 4th turn on one side of the intersection, and that will be the reason, I believe, for our timeout and our yellow here as we work the 54th minute of this 3-hour race, and we're on the 142nd lap of the leader. These drivers are working away from the Goodyear street legal radials they run in regular season racing to very big, very wide, and very sticky Goodyear tires. There may be trouble with Tunney's car. I saw the car roll over on the left rear going into the first turn. I don't know if he's running into problems with that tire. That was just something that I saw. I hope I was wrong, but I got the impression that car might be running out of tire on one side. No, it's just my imagination. I see it correct. For a second there, I thought Tunney might be developing a flat tire on the left rear, which would definitely slow him down. But it looks as if Tunney is going to get away and keep on going. still 920, and I stand corrected for thinking he might be running in this tire model, and he's running extremely strong as before. Although he might still have a tire going down on the left rear. If that's the case, then he would definitely need a yellow to come in and make a stop. So we'll be keeping a close watch at the intersection as the number 23 of Van Meter and the number 75 of Scott Martin almost collided. And Ken Carpenter's in trouble in the number 66, and will come down to caution as Carpenter spun or maybe had some sort of contact with another car over in turn number 3 and 4. And Carpenter, the Michigan driver, the number 66, has slowed down and stopped. Again, in that last sequence, I had the impression, for one reason or another, that Tunney, the number 9 car, might have a left rear tire that might be starting to go flat. From this angle and distance, and without putting a substantial load on that tire, it's difficult to tell if my impression was correct or not. I hope it was incorrect for Tunney's sake. But with these tires, it's difficult with these huge, big racing slicks. It can be difficult to tell. In any case, the number 66 is Ken Carpenter, one of the leading drivers from the state of Michigan who runs on a regular basis in the ARCA Hooters series from Walled Lake, Wisconsin, a two-time winner of the Sidney Thompson Memorial Award that is given away here at the Indianapolis Speedrome for the driver that has the most improvement in position in the World Championship of figure eight racing. Might have a little trouble doing that tonight with the car going up on the hook. We're 1 hour into the race, 1 hour and 1 minute into the World Championship of figure eight racing. And at the 1/3 mark of this race, 154 laps completed and heading toward a 450 lap pace, which is a remarkable pace considering the number of cautions that we've had. The leader again will be the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. Your second place car will be the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Third place, the number 2 of Mike St. John. Fourth place, the number 4 of Rich Findlay. Fifth place, the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr., the defending two-time champion. Up to 6th place is now number 87 of Danny Turner. Back to 7th, the number 5 of Robert Davis. 8th place, the number 33 of Doug Gregg. 9th place, the red and yellow number 1 hour of Rodney Sizemore. 10th place, the number 71 of Charles Coles. 11th place, number 44 of David Bussey. 12th place, the number 38 of Kenny Rackley. 13th place, the 02 of Michigan driver Jerry Whitten. The 14th place driver will be the number 75 of Scott Martin and the number 18 of Rodney Smith as we come to the restart at the end of minute number 2 of the second hour of this race. The number 3 of Dawsey is now on the move. He is a man with a mission as they almost collide with the 44 of Bussey at the intersection. The number 3 of Dawsey fell 1 lap down earlier in this race. Dawsey obviously definitely wants to get his lap back. There are 5 drivers running in the front of the field. Only 2 of those 5 drivers are running for position at this point. The number 9 of Tunney has the lead. Second place is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. But in that fight, you have championship caliber drivers in the number 4 of Findlay, the number 3 of Dawsey, who I show as your 5th place car trying to get a lap back, and the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. That's Dawsey shouldering his way to the inside of the number 9 of Tunney, trying to get a lap back. In doing so, Tunney fights him off and gets the position as the leaders had to avoid the number 25 of Milbury at the intersection. So Dawsey has his lap back and starts to pull away. Car's in trouble. The number 33 of Doug Gregg in a collision crashes and hits the wall. And then you have the number 95, number 3 or 4 cars crash behind him, with the number 71 across hitting the 02 car and putting him into the wall, trapping the number 84 of Garrett, the number 55 of Haskett, and one other machine, which is the 0A machine of Dan Wright from Kentucky, bringing out yet another caution after only a few laps of green. As Doug Gregg brings his 33 car off the wall, he got hit, and that cut down the right rear tire, and then Doug Gregg hit the wall with the left front, and Gregg immediately brings his car off the track. The crowd wasn't. The drivers don't. They tear up equipment. They got to put it back together. But if they were afraid of tearing up equipment, they wouldn't run in this World Championship of figure eight racing. So Larry Harris talks about what it's like to get ready to go into this World Championship of figure eight racing, and the other drivers who are already in the field and ready to go out there are fighting hard in the front of the field. first place. Also in the middle of that fight at the front is the number 4, Fenwick. Fenwick has unlapped himself a couple of times from Tunney, and he's also going to lap down. These leaders are going to now overwhelm the number 33 of Doug Gregg, who's coming back onto the racetrack after making a pit stop for repair damage he suffered in that last crash. 9, Tunney, and 15 Lee. Remember, about an hour ago, Tunney almost put Lee, a half hour ago, Tunney almost put Lee at 1 lap down. Now there's the number 3 of Dawsey. Dawsey tried to get a lap back as well. Has to watch out for Lee and Tunney in the intersection. And now the 74 of Curtis Murphy in there racing as Tunney goes to the inside of the 0-2. That car that just got involved in that melee over at the wall is back and running again. The 0-2 of Jerry Witt. Here's the race for the lead coming out of turn number 4. Having to watch out for cars in the intersection. The 9 of Tunney and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Lee with inside position on Tunney. We're looking for the first lead change in ours. It's 6 abreast in the intersection, and the leaders got through. How? I'll never know. It was 6 abreast at the crossover. 20 cars in the intersection, and the leaders didn't even lift the throttle as they went through at full speed, and Tunney just barely held the advantage. But Tunney again is being pushed hard by the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, which leads to that speculation I had earlier, that Tunney was facing a deflating left rear tire and was losing ground in the right-hand turns number 1 and 2. As Tunney and Lee come from between Ford and the number 33 of Gregg, Tunney has been consistently sideways and losing traction in that right-hand turns number 1 and 2, and is having trouble staying ahead of Dwayne Lee. Now Lee tries to go to the inside of Tunney in 3 and 4. Tunney's handling very good in 3 and 4, but now he runs into and wrecks the number 74 of Curtis Murphy, and through the intersection just barely avoids Dawsey and the number 33 of Doug Gregg, as there are stopped cars all over the place in the intersection, and once again we bring it down to yellow. That last sequence of racing led more credence to our thought that Tunney may have troubles with that car. Definitely with a flat tire on the left rear, number 74, Curtis Murphy. But again, I've got the feeling that Bill Tunney Jr. has a deflating tire on the left rear that is causing his car to handle poorly in the right-hand turns number 1 and 2. If that's the case, then Dwayne Lee in number 15 is going to be all over Tunney and battling hard for the lead. Remember, when Tunney had 4 good tires on that car, he was able to pull away and thoroughly defeat everybody else. So watch Tunney's number 9, especially the left rear corner. Tunney, if he has a flat tire on that left rear, could have trouble controlling the car in the first turn, and that would give the lead to Dwayne Lee. And Dwayne Lee, after almost an hour battling and almost going a lap down, would be up in first place. With Dwayne Lee seems to lead every world championship for figure 8 racing. Working to finish the 172nd lap here at the restart, midway through the 11th minute of the second hour of this race. Tunney holds off Dwayne Lee. Dwayne Lee has inside position on Tunney going into turn number 3. Tunney outdrives Lee going into the third turn. They almost touch in 3. And Tunney pulls out ahead of Lee coming out of the 4th turn. At the intersection, Mike St. John barely gets around Rackley and Bussey. And St. John is the 3rd place car. 2 lengths between first and second going through the intersection. St. John, the 3rd place machine, has to wait up for a whole bunch of guys who just barely get out of his way and get out of his way reluctantly. Tunney keeps on going, has to watch out for Wisman. Wisman almost took out Carpenter. Wisman in the 1 car at the intersection, moving through slowly, and just barely gets out of the way as the leaders charge on by, almost taking out the number 71 of Charles Gould. Now the number 7, 12 of Oak slows down, and the number 83 of Country Brown in trouble trying to get off the track. At the intersection, Tunney has to hold up to keep her running into the number 10 car. The leaders are in a heavy box. They're getting jostled and knocked around by Oaks and Turner. There's no place for Tunney to go. In 3 abreast racing, looking for somewhere to get there. Turner moves around Tunney. That is not a pass for position. That is not a pass for position. Turner is still a lap or so behind Tunney, but he does get a lap back. The driver who is racing the lead is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Lee has been all over Tunney as this pair of second-generation drivers has been battling over the last 30 or 40 laps hard for first place. And we'll notice that Dawsey, who I'll call your fourth-place car in the number 3, is trying to make some inroads in that car, although we'll have to double-check and find out if Dawsey is or is not back on the lead lap. Our indication are that Dawsey is back on the lead lap of the number 3. Cutting through 3 abreast racing, Dawsey is within about a quarter lap of getting back to the leader, but he's still got a long way to go. But of course, there's a long way in this race to go, midway through the 15th minute of the second hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. At the intersection, the 87 of Turner had to slow down to keep getting into the number 71 of Charles Cole. There's Dawsey in the number 3. The two-time defending World Figure 8 champion who has fallen a lap down once, maybe twice, and is trying to get back to the front of the field. Coming out of the fourth turn, charging across the intersection, and within about a quarter lap of catching up to this hot fight between the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. As Dawsey goes into the third turn, Lee and Tunney come out of the fourth turn, and Lee takes the lead, getting Tunney caught in traffic. Dwayne Lee comes to first place in the first turn of lap 186. But now Lee has to slow down to keep from smashing into the number 71 of Cole, and that puts the number 9 of Tunney back into the lead, as Dwayne Lee, after fighting so hard and so long, leads only one lap. And now Dawsey, whether Lee and Tunney have to slow down to keep from hitting Coles again, and that brings the two leaders back together. And taking advantage of this is Dawsey. Dawsey in fourth place is getting closer and closer as we look at Danny Turner in 87, who is not racing for position right now. Turner is having a good race, but he currently is right behind the leaders. Turner is not in the lead in the race at number 87. The lead battle is right behind Turner. There's the number 9 of Tunney and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee running first and second. Well, the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore trying to get a lap back from these guys as well, as the number 83 Country Brown in full speed backs across the intersection. That's something new, or not so new. Tunney in the number 9, the number 15 of Dwayne Lee running in second place, led one lap away from Tunney. As they come to the intersection, heavy traffic, and everybody in that lead pack keeps on going. And now we're developing a race for third place between the 2 of St. John and the number 3 of Dawsey. As the leaders move by, the latest alternate to go on the racetrack, number 1 of Dennis Wisman, another Michigan driver. The 87 of Danny Turner is serving as kind of the lead escort for the number 9 of Tunney and the 15 of Lee. Turner in the number 87 is in 6th place, so a few laps down. The number 9 of Tunney is the leader. Number 15 of Dwayne Lee is in 2nd place. Right behind them is the number 1 Rodney Sizemore, who's the 8th place car. As Tunney is trying to put Turner another lap down, Lee is trying to pass Tunney for the lead, and closing up on these drivers hard is the 3rd place, number 2 of Mike St. John, and Gaddis pushed into the intersection, almost takes out the entire lead pack. As Gaddis just barely gets out of the way. Now it's Kevin Ford and the number 23 of Van Meter, as Ford's in a dangerous position at the intersection. Doesn't know whether to go forward or backwards. Ford is stalled the 11. Big trouble. Ford just barely now gets underway, as Ford came within inches of getting smashed into oblivion. And through all of this, the number 9 of Tunney has again pulled away from the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, taking advantage of traffic and again getting a substantial lead. But now, here's the fight for 3rd place between the number 2 of St. John and the 3 of Dawsey. There's Lee, the 2nd place number 15, right behind the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, then the 32 of Whitaker, and there's the number 2 of St. John and the number 3 of Dawsey. Those drivers are racing hard for 3rd place. Dawsey, who's fallen a lap down once, maybe twice, in the pink number 3 car, is all over St. John and racing him hard for position number 3. As those are the last 2 cars on the lead lap, Dawsey makes the move to 3rd place coming out of turn number 2 of lap 196, midway through the 19th minute of the 2nd hour of this World Championship race. St. John takes the position away from Dawsey as they're split 4 abreast through turns number 1 and 2. And St. John found the outside line was the better line, gets 3 lengths on Dawsey for 3rd place going into turn number 3. Now both of those drivers try to fight their way to the inside, racing in incredibly heavy traffic in the middle of a 15 to 20 car pack that goes snarling into turns number 1 and 2. St. John, the 3-time world champion, almost runs head-on into number 72 of Nelson, who was doing something I couldn't believe. He was going the wrong way on the track, now gets turned back around. At the intersection, watch for the 3rd and 4th place cars going around Rackley's number 38. Again, Dawsey in the number 3 has moved up to the tail of Mike St. John's number 2. Then you've got the number 4 of Fenwick, who is shown on my score sheet as the car that is running in the 4th spot. Now this could get interesting. We have to double check with our scores, and Honey in heavy traffic is bringing us over Roger Tire as well. We notice that Fenwick in the number 4 is mixing it up with the number 2 of St. John and number 3 of Dawson. We'll have to think here a moment and check with our leaders. Is Fenwick running on the lead lap? The answer is yes. So it's a 3-car fight for 3rd place. As 3 cars, 5 cars crash in turn number 3. 25 Silver, 71 Frost get away. 11 Ford, the number 10 of Buford, and the number 66 of Carpenter are in it as well. All of those drivers get disengaged, but because they were stalled in a bad position, we'll have to bring it down to yellow. So things have changed drastically here in this World Championship of figure eight racing. At one point, we had only 3 cars on the lead lap, and the number 9 T of Bill Tunney Jr. almost had the entire field 1 lap down. Now, our scores tell us there are 5 cars and drivers running on the lead lap. Well, the leader being number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. Second place, 15 Dwayne Lee. 3rd place, 2 Mike St. John. 4th place, 4 Rich Fenwick. 5th place, the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. All of those drivers shown on the lead lap. 6th place, 87 Turner. 7th place is the number 5 of Robert Abel. 8th place, the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. 9th place, 33 Doug Gray. 10th place, the number 71 of Charles Cole. Another full power restarted up the cars charging through. You notice the Fenwick number 4 car just made a pit stop and may have fallen off the lead lap once again because he made a pit stop just before the green flag came out. John Cuddy still running just barely ahead of the number 50 of Wayne Lee in 2nd place. 3rd place is the number 2 of Mike St. John. You also notice the absence of Dawsey in the number 3. Dawsey also used this yellow flag period to make a pit stop and will have lost a couple of laps. But Dawsey makes this pit stop early and takes on maybe some fuel, maybe a tire or 2. And everybody else stays on the racetrack and hopes things keep on going. I'm certain, watch out at the intersection as Cole almost takes out the number 44 of Bussey and the number 98 of McMurtry. There's almost no way this race is going to run the rest of the way under green. There are too many things that can happen. And Danny Turner almost makes it happen, almost triggering an 8-car crash. But one thing hasn't changed in recent laps. The 15 of Dwayne Lee, who threw well with a huge bumper on the front of that car, a bumper that's already come in handy at least once. Runs in hot pursuit of number 9 and Betty. Betty and Dwayne Lee ready first and 2nd place. Getting an escort to number 23 of Eddie Van Meter. Van Meter is in 16th place. Van Meter had a couple of suspension breakers on that car and has fallen a long distance back. But Van Meter at 23 is showing that he is more than capable of running with the leaders. Now, Dwayne Lee almost gets to number 9 and Tunney, and Tunney turns it down to the infield to get underneath the 0-8 car and the Amber. Now, the officials are talking carefully on the radio because they get the impression there may be a car out there. And we'll glance at the racetrack for a moment. We can't see who it might or might not be. 98, number 98 is Curtis McMurtry. That's where they're watching. Curtis McMurtry, the 98, will get a black flag for fueling. 98 Curtis McMurtry, black flag down the race for fueling. In the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, as soon as you are given the black flag, scoring for that car season, McMurtry acknowledges the black flag and pulls off the track. Now there's Bill Finney Jr. taken high by Ken Carpenter in turns number 1 and 2. Dwayne Lee down to the inside, takes the lead for the second time in the second hour of the World Championship race. Now can Tunney catch back up to Dwayne Lee, or does Dwayne Lee have control of this race as they close in behind the number 10 car of Newkirk, and Dwayne Lee bumps over the marker tire to move around Newkirk, and Tunney moves past Newkirk as well, as again the number 72 of Mike Nelson almost crashed into a car going deliberately the wrong way at the crossover. Oh yeah, there's the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. We should note that Dawsey in the number 3 lost a couple of laps when he went in and made a pit stop. Now, there is no requirement that a car or a driver make a pit stop, but sometimes the drivers feel they need to stop to check over the car, to refuel, to make repairs, maybe to change tires. And so Dawsey is still running as fast as before, the defending champion, who was back on the lead lap before he made a stop. He's running right behind the number 4 of Fenwick, who also made a pit stop during that last sequence, but Fenwick got back onto the racetrack before Dawsey did, as Dawsey comes to the intersection in some incredibly heavy traffic. Dwayne Lee in the number 9, number 15 has now fallen back to second place again, as the 9 of Tunney leads as the number 12 of Oaks in a wild spin in turn number 1. And Dwayne Lee runs over the marker tire once again. I can't believe that. Dwayne Lee had the lead for maybe 2 laps, and Tunney took it back away from him. And Tunney is showing some remarkable strength in that number 9 car in 4-breast racing, which happens so many times as you end up running over the marker tires as often as you end up running over the pavement. And Cole just barely escapes to the intersection again, but you have a lot of close escapes in this world of figure 8 racing. Now we come to the midway, getting close to the midway point of this race. When the clock shows 30 minutes completed, the flagman will show cross flags when the leader completes that lap. The 15 of Dwayne Lee had to hit the brakes hard to keep him hitting the number 4 on Fenwick at the crossover. We're closing down to the end of the 27th minute of the first hour of the second hour of this race, as Dwayne Lee almost collides with the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. The number 5 of Amos got hit by the number 44 of Bussey. Everybody disengages. And Tunney, again, seems to have the perfect figure 8 car. Tunney dominating this race in a way that we had not anticipated. We figured it was going to be a race that any number of 20 cars or 20 drivers could win. We knew that Tunney had the capable of winning this race. We didn't expect he was going to dominate it to the point that even with what appears to be an underinflated left rear tire, he could come back and pass at will. Because remember, Tunney was passed second twice in this sequence of racing for the lead by the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, and has twice come back and taken the lead back away from Lee. Midway through the 28th minute of the second hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing, now there's a fluid leak that may be coming out of the number 38 of Rackley. No doubt whatsoever. Rackley, and number 38, is leaking something on the track as we watch the number 2 of Mike St. John. St. John is your third-place driver. He has been a factor in all of the World Figure 8 Championship events that he has run in. He has won 3 Figure 8 Championship races. He's 3 times a world champion, but he's running into some... let's look at what is Mike St. John probably going through right now as he cuts to the intersection about a half lap behind the leading number 9 of Tunney. Tunney so far has led 154 laps out of the 223 that have been completed so far, as Curtis Murphy spins to the south end of the racetrack and backs out of the way. Tunney has had the lead, and he has been the driver that has been on almost a perpetual charge. But Mike St. John looks like he's almost playing the sort of game that a Bob Steneker or Gordon Johncock or Cale Yarborough would play, where he just decides to hang back and stay in contact and then race for the lead at the end of the race. Mike St. John running a smart race and running a race that sees fewer and fewer body panels on the car, and the number 74 is Curtis Murphy. has been a regular of the Speedrome and then run on a limited schedule this year. Tunney holds on to the lead, and he's pulling further and further ahead as we're getting 1 minute away from the halfway mark of this World Championship of Figure 8 races. The number 9 of Tunney comes across the stripe. At this last restart, Tunney was 1 car length ahead of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Now as we near the halfway mark of this race, it's a 6.6-second advantage. As Bill Tunney Jr., it's becoming pretty obvious, has the dominant car at this point. But you wonder, are there drivers who are taking it easy that might have a car that's good enough to run to the front of the field? Or are there drivers that are ready to pounce when the pit stops start to work their way out? Can Tunney run the entire distance without making it stop? Watch out as Ken Carpenter hit coming into the first turn, almost smashed into the main stretch wall. Carpenter's out of the way and gets restarted as we see the number 10 of Wayne Newkirk coming through the intersection as well, almost running into Carpenter and Oaks and Dwayne Lee and Curtis Murphy and R.J. Norton and a host of other drivers. And here it is. Mark, the 1/2 way of this race. Cross flags will be shown to Bill Tunney Jr. this next time by as the leader of the first half of the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. And Bill Tunney Jr. has led something like 160 laps out of the 230 laps completed, and he almost didn't lead anymore as the number 71 of Charles Cole came to the intersection right ahead of Tunney. Actually, he was almost running straight across the start-finish line. Bill Tunney Jr. has run very strong in this World Championship race. A couple of years ago, I thought he had a chance to win this contest. Was involved in 2 hard crossover crashes, including one in which Tunney almost flipped his car and then literally picked it back up off the other car, got back into the fight and kept on running, and then came and crashed again. 2 cars crash out turn number 4. The number 02 car of Whitten and the number 95 of Kim Gibson. They disengage and keep on going. And Bill Tunney Jr. is now almost a half lap ahead of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Dwayne Lee comes through the intersection. My stopwatch shows the gap between first and second place is an incredible 9.2 seconds as Tunney goes past the spun number 10 car of Wayne Newkirk. At this rate, they would complete 460 laps. That's the fastest pace in the World Championship of Figure 8 racing in 12 years. Wayne Arnold won in 1983 at 470 laps, and this is the fastest and the most laps in this particular format of the race where we bring the race down to yellow. Another spin by the 95 of Kim Gibson coming out of the 4th turn, right behind the leading number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. And Tunney is trying to build up a 10-second advantage and is starting to look like a driver that could lap the field as Tunney is closing up on the number 3 of Jack Dalsey Jr. Dalsey has already made a pit stop. We also have to watch for Ken Carpenter's number 66, which looks like it's in a precarious position. And Carpenter almost got hit by the number 67 of Dennis Dameron, the teenage driver who's the 23rd alternate that just came off the track. And now Dameron in 67 and Carpenter at 66 are stalled on the high side of turn number 4. That could bring out a yellow here in a couple of minutes. Will Carpenter got restarted for maybe a foot or two. There's Ray Gaddis in 779 and Dalsey in number 3. Michigan and Indiana champions in similarly painted pink cars, but Dalsey looks like the faster car this time. Dalsey now right on the tail end of the number 87 of Danny Turner as they come underneath that sign over there in 3 and 4 where Dameron 67 and the 66 of Carpenter are stalled up near the wall. So far we're staying under green, although we're hearing some talk of maybe going down to yellow as a result of that incident. Dameron at number 67 has gotten restarted. He could have done us a favor by pushing Carpenter out of the way, but Dameron is out of the way after stalling. Now let's see what happens to Carpenter in the number 66. And Kim Gibson spins in turn number 4. I think she got clipped by the number 44 of Bussey. Now those cars are gradually getting restarted and out of each other's way. And now the number 4 of Fenwick ran over Bussey and almost flipped on top of him just as the yellow came out. I don't believe it. Rich Fenwick, experienced Figure 8 driver, ran into and over Bussey's car, and that broke the left front suspension of Fenwick's car, and that'll take him out of the top 5 and maybe cost Fenwick a chance to win the World Championship. As Fenwick in a low-speed collision with the cars that were over there in turn number 4 has broken his car. Carpenter's out of his machine. He's okay. Gibson's just looking for some room to get restarted, but Fenwick's in big trouble. Fenwick in the number 4 came across the place where Bussey in 44 had collided with Gibson and spun, and then the number 4 of Fenwick, who's over there in a bit of an argument with one of the track officials. You never win that one, Carpenter. Saw the number 4 of Fenwick collide, and I'm pretty sure that broke Fenwick's left front suspension, taking him out of the race. 36 minutes into the second hour of this 3-hour World Championship Figure 8 race. 241 laps completed. And the leader has finally made a pit stop during this caution. The number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. has moved off the track and made a pit stop for the first time. That will elevate into the lead the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Now, Lee is in the lead, but he is near the tail end of the field. The guy that's the front of the field is the number 23 of Van Meter, then 33 Doug Gregg. Those drivers are lapped down. The leader is in the middle of this pack, the number 15 of Rich Fenwick. We watch the number 23 of Van Meter, the 33 of Gregg, and the number 98 of McMurtry. Those are not the lead cars. The leader is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, who comes through turn number 2. There's the number 23 of Van Meter, then the number 33 of Doug Gregg, the number 98 of McMurtry, and the number 3 of Dawsey. Then you've got the number 84 of Garrigus and the number 83 of Country Brown. They are all out there racing hard, but so far none of those drivers are leading, although Scott Box, the number 99, almost took out the number 3 of Dawsey. Dawsey now finds himself getting closer and closer to the lead lap. The leader is Dwayne Lee in the number 15. Lee has first place as he goes into the first corner. I stand corrected. We're now showing the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. as leader. Our scorers are told us that Dawsey has the lead in the number 3. But we're working between Dawsey, the number 3, and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee as your leaders. For the moment, we're saying it's Dawsey. It may be Lee in the lead. As we're closing down to the end of the 38th minute of this second hour of the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Dawsey's been running hard, and he's going for 3 World Championships in a row, but there's still a lot of things that can happen as Dawsey has to watch out for Scott Martin at the intersection, and the absence car almost hits the 0-2 of Whitten. But now Tunney is starting to show something that could be trouble as we watch at the intersection, and the number 12 of Oaks almost hit the number 23 of Van Meter. May have hit Van Meter, I'm not sure, but Van Meter takes the 23 off the track. Now, I don't know if Tunney repaired that tire that may or may not have been going flat on the rear, but we're starting to see a couple of sparks from underneath Tunney's car. Now, that's not the sort of thing that would take you out of the race, or even the thing that would necessarily slow you down, but it's the sort of thing that might make you nervous when you watch from up at the tower, or from the grandstands, or definitely from the pit area. Tunney in the number 9. Unofficially, we're showing him in 3rd place in this race. Moves around the number 75 of Scott Martin, going through turns number 1 and 2, and now moves past the team car to Martin's, being driven by Curtis Murphy. Now cuts through the intersection as Martin through the crossover, almost takes out Dwayne Lee and Curtis McMurtry. McMurtry is the 98, Murphy is the number 74. At the intersection, the number 84 of Donnie Garrigus almost hit by the number 44 of Bussey. And as you see a wide shot of the intersection, I don't know how Curtis Murphy got in front of Mike St. John and Rodney Smith and several other cars. This is the way it goes constantly in the intersection. This constantly unceasing maelstrom of cars coming from one direction to another, charging back and forth, in and out, trying to make it work, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing. This is the heart of Figure 8 racing. This intense and wild intersection through which a Bill Tunney Jr. will shoot, throwing caution to the wind, showing a lot of skill and a lot of guts. Then you'll see somebody like Walker DeMint, the number 68, come tiptoeing through. Tunney just barely getting ahead of Whitten and Jack Dawsey Jr. Then the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore cutting through the intersection. The number 69 of R.J. North, the 74 of Murphy, just barely avoiding the number 12 of Oaks, and then the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore getting through an intersection that has a lot of cars, and not much room as Whiston in the number 1 W car almost took out 6 cars in the crossover. Closing down the 41st minute of the second hour of this race, and already we've got some debris in the track. Somebody got hit or spun out and dropped a bumper bar out there, but that's just standard debris. It'll get picked up and kind of knocked off to one side. That's one of the neat things about the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. It's a self-cleaning racetrack. Midway through the 42nd minute of this race, 257 laps are now being worked. And the intensity and the insanity gets bigger and bigger every time because you constantly get more and more cars being put onto the racetrack. As it stands right now, midway through the 42nd minute of the second hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing, the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. is shown as our leader. Second place would be the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Third place would be the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. And we're showing in fourth place the number two of Mike St. John. Now 3 cars are in trouble over in turn number 2. Jerry Brown gets away in the number 44, leaving behind Walker DeWitt and Doug Gregg. And 2 other cars have crashed over near the intersection, the number 08 of Apperson and the number 18 of Rodney Smith, and they almost crashed into the pace car. So Walker DeWitt is still facing the wrong direction over in number 2. No, that was Mike St. John that got taken out. I thought that was the number 18 car of Rodney Smith. Instead, it was Mike St. John, who had been running in the top 5, who got taken out in that incident and is now stormed into the pit area to make repairs. That will definitely hurt Mike St. John's chances of winning a 4th World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Now our scoring is shaken out to the point where they are calling the number 15 of Dwayne Lee in first place. As I thought earlier, the second place is now the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. Shown in third place is the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Fourth place would have been Mike St. John, but St. John just had to make a pit stop to make repairs. Fifth place, 87, Danny Turner. Sixth place, the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. In 7th place, the number 4 of Rich Fenwick. 8th place, the number 5 of Robert Amos. 9th place, 33, Doug Gregg. 10th place, the number 44 of David Bussey. Notice that Fenwick has not yet come back to the racetrack after he was involved in that slow-speed collision over in turn number 4 that saw his car damaged. And Walker DeWitt in a second crash with Bussey, and DeWitt backs right in front of Doug Gregg. There are cars coming full speed, and Walker DeWitt's number 68. Will they avoid him? Will bring out the yellow to spare Walker DeWitt's life. And now 2 cars crashed. Scott Box at 99, Bussey at 44, and Bussey was pushed into the path of the number 84 of Garrigus, who hit him. So it's a 3-part, 6-car chain reaction crash at 2 parts of the intersection, bringing out the yellow. So we look toward the pit exit, and we see 1 car coming back onto the track, the number 72 of Mike Nelson. No sign of Dawsey, as we also notice the car being pulled off the track. Another one of the Southern drivers of Apperson. Now here's Dawsey coming back onto the racetrack. Dawsey loses a lot of ground as the number 18 of Smith just barely gets across the front of the pace car. That was a dangerous move. And, this could be trouble. Dennis Dameron just barely gets out of the way. For a moment, he was almost caught in the middle of the track. Now, there's Tunney working ahead of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee on this restart. We'll double-check with our race scorers and find out if that is a pass for position or if those drivers are running on or off the lead lap. For the moment, Tunney runs ahead of Dwayne Lee. We've already seen a lot of that in this racing. Right behind those drivers is the number 87 of Danny Turner going into the third turn as Dwayne Lee tries to come to the inside of Tunney to put him behind him once again. And Our officials are telling us, I guess that is a pass for position, and the number 9 of Tunney is in fact racing on the same lap with the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Coming out of the fourth turn, they are racing wheel to wheel, side by side for what we're told is the lead, as the number 15 of Dwayne Lee goes back around the number 9 of Tunney. At the intersection, Dwayne Lee had to hold up for 3 cars that were stopped at the crossover and pull off to one side and sacrifice the lead to the number 9 of Tunney. So you'll see the numbers change this time by, as Tunney in the 9 goes back in front of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. On the exchange of pit stops, the guys are back where they were before, as we're now close to the end of the second hour of this 3-hour figure 8 endurance race, which has been a battle since for the last hour and a half between second-generation drivers, Tunney and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. And now Danny Turner's mixing it up with the leaders. Turner's a few laps down to these guys, trying to get a lap back from these leaders, and does so. But in the process, he almost took both of them out when Turner in the 87 hit the marker tire. But Turner's now out of the picture, figuratively, not literally, as he tries to pull away from these guys, as Tunney and Lee have to watch out for intersection traffic. The leaders are working their 276th lap at the intersection. They've got heavy traffic to watch for as they cut right and then left to try to get around 2 cars to the crossover. Now Dwayne Lee measures Tunney for a pass to the lead coming out of the fourth turn of the 276th lap. And Dwayne Lee has that inside position on Tunney. Tunney drives away. Dwayne Lee measures him coming out of the second turn. Cars are 6 abreast and in the intersection ahead of the leaders, and they keep on going. As Tunney follows the cars through, notice the 87 of Danny Turner is pulled 6 or 7 lengths ahead, and Dawsey spun in turn number 1. I don't know what happened to Dawsey, whether he contacted somebody else, but Dawsey had just come back onto the racetrack, looped the car, leaving a cloud of smoke through which the leaders are running. And now Dwayne Lee hits the back end of Tunney, as Tunney had to stop short to keep from running into Danny Turner, who in turn had to stop short to keep from running into Doug Gregg in the 75 of Scott Martin. There's Dawsey in the 3 car getting back underway after his spin. Dawsey, with no luck whatsoever with this sequence, now finds himself behind the number 11 of Ford, and now trying to get around the 779 of Gaddis. And the number 9 of Tunney and the 15 of Dwayne Lee are still about a quarter of the lap away from putting it on. A lap down is Tunney and Dwayne Lee get together coming out of turn number 4, and Tunney almost crashed, but Tunney recovers from the slide to lead lap number 278 as Dawsey still holds on. Here we watch Dawsey, the defending world figure 8 champion, who is having himself a wild ride. Dawsey has had some smooth runs in his run to the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. This is not one of those nights. As you see, Dawsey caught in that heavy traffic behind the number 69 of Dale Canals, now going 3 wide into the first turn as Jerry Wisman in the number 1 W car spun. He stalled in the middle of turn number 3, going the wrong way, at least getting out of the way, and is passed by Mike St. John. And St. John is a story in himself. Just ahead of Dawsey's number 3 is St. John. Look at the bodywork on St. John's cars for number 1 car. The 1 car is trying to get out of the way. That's the Michigan figure 8 champion in the number 1 W car that ran into some big problems. He's far enough out of the way is the 1 of Dennis Wisman that he'll be able to get back underway. But the story is here with Dawsey as they charge into the second turn, right behind Dawsey's number 3. Well, we'll look at the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. running right with the number 15 of Dwayne Lee coming out of the second turn. Dawsey and St. John had to hold up for those guys. St. John's got a lot of bodywork damage on the left side of his car, but right side of his car, but it'll keep on running. Now Tunney almost runs into the number 98 of McMurtry as Tunney tries to put McMurtry 1 lap down. And another lap down as Wisman and the number 74 almost get together. And 2 cars have crashed at the intersection, just short of the intersection, the 69 of Norton and the number 12 of Oaks. They are tied together and getting disengaged and will come down to yellow because of that 2-car crash, the 69 of Norton and the number 12 of Oaks. The number 66 of Carpenter had nothing to do with the crash. He just kind of got caught there and was in the middle of the intersection with no place to go. 1 car is going to get a black flag for leaking something on the track. The number 23 is going up on the board. That 23 is Eddie Van Meter. Van Meter detected that car leaking something on the track And Van Meter, the number 23, has been ordered off the track and out of the race. "54 minutes through the second hour of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And as it was in the first hour, it comes down to a battle between the number 9 of Bill Tenney Jr. and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. It'll show in third place 3 Jack Dawsey Jr., fourth place 87 Danny Turner, fifth place 1R Rodney Sizemore, sixth place 2 Mike St. John, seventh place 5 number 5 of Robert Amos, eighth place 33 Doug Gregg, ninth place 75 Scott Martin, 10th place the number 4 Fenwick. But Fenwick's been missing for the last 10 laps or so. Here's our "your car has to be moved" message as we're near the 2/3 mark of this race. It's a red Pontiac Grand Prix with a Shelby County license plate 73A5990, a red Pontiac Grand Prix that has to be moved with red Shelby County license plate 73A5990. Hey, they do the same thing in the U.S. Nationals, 9 out of the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, having to move cars that are in a bad place. There's a red car that is moving and does not have to be moved because it has just moved into the lead. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee, who has now moved into what I believe is first place, and will be, I think, officially shown as the leader coming here out of turn number 4 as we watch to see if these two cars stop at the intersection. Now they're far enough out of the way, and Dwayne Lee holds on to the lead as we come to the second turn of lap number 289. And now the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore moves around Tunney as well. That is not a pass for position. Rodney Sizemore has several laps to make up before he's ready to challenge for the lead. But Rodney Sizemore has to make up those laps one at a time, and he's driving hard against Dwayne Lee to get his laps back. Rodney Sizemore bounces off the marker tire in turn number 1 and 2 of lap number 290. And now Rodney Sizemore uses the 11 of Ford as a moving fix to get a lap back for the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Dwayne Lee tries to get back around Rodney Sizemore, almost sideswipe him as they move around the number 99 of Scott Box. And now Rodney Sizemore bounces off Kevin Ford's number 11 to put him another lap down along with Dwayne Lee, as the leaders have to watch out for the number 75 of Scott Martin. So there's the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore. Looks like he's the fastest guy on the racetrack right now, as he now has moved past the number 5 of Robert Amos and is moving up on the number 38 of Kenny Racklin. The leader is 15 Dwayne Lee. Second place is the number 9 of Tunney. Those drivers are still mixing it up as 87 Turner and 3 Dawsey are trying to catch up to the leaders. Dawsey is shown in third place. We'll have to double check and find out if he's in the lead lap. I'm pretty certain that Dawsey lost a couple of laps on those multiple pit stops a while ago. And now Tunney loses ground in a slide at the north end of the racetrack as 75 Scott Martin almost gets the number 53 of Marvin Owens Jr., the Wayne Township firefighter, his first ever world championship of figure 8 racing. And the number 27 of Eddie Deal, who had promised he would come back into the race, does so as Mike St. John and Rodney Sizemore and R.J. Norton almost collide, and somebody's leaking a lot of fluid on the racetrack. It looks like it's the 38 of Kenny Rackley, who is turning this racetrack into a skating rink. Slippery in turn number 3. Dwayne Lee goes high in 3, and underneath him goes the number 3 of Dawsey. It's the number 69 of R.J. Norton, we're told, is leaking that fluid on the track. But in case somebody leaked a lot of water on the racetrack, it has made it unusually slippery. And taking advantage of that one is Dawsey in heavy traffic in the crossover, and the 02 car of Witten almost got smashed into bits. And Witten is quickly passed by the number 3 of Dawsey, as this is the most intense figure 8 crossover racing we've had, and we're almost 2 hours into this race, and it's like the green flag just dropped. Dawsey in 3. Racing with the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, right behind the number 69 of R.J. Norton, which I guess was not the car that was leaking water on the track. Those drivers charging hard into the third turn, trying to stay up with the number trying to stay ahead, rather, of the number 87 of Turner. Then you've got the leading number 15 of Dwayne Lee. And, of course, these guys are trying to pull away from Dwayne Lee to have a better chance to get closer to the lead lap. And again, we'll have to check with our scores to find out if was all in trouble as there was a collision between Mike St. John and the number 10 of Wayne Newkirk in turn number 1, and Newkirk slammed hard into the wall, bringing out the yellow flag. Mike St. John in 2, racing hard with the blue number 10 of Wayne Newkirk going into the first turn, and Newkirk smashed the concrete hard with the left front, bringing out the caution. Newkirk was on the brakes hard in the 10 car, trying to stop the car before it hit the wall. There's Newkirk gradually, slowly getting out of the car. He's a little unhappy and maybe looking for a machine that he thought caused the contact. Newkirk is out and he's okay. But he's going to need a tow back in, and wow, that's a motley-looking crew with John Mims in the helmet and the USAC cap. Mims is a regular worker. He is our fire and rescue expert on this rescue team for the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Fortunately, no need to rescue Wayne Newkirk out of the number 10 car. He's quite capable of taking care of himself. He'll catch his breath on the sill of his car before getting out, showing a big spot of sweat where he's been racing very hard. And all of that happened just short, and we're now at the 2-hour mark of this race. And look at the pace car coming through. Look at the right side of the pace car. It's bashed in. The pace car's been wrecked tonight here at the Indianapolis Speedrome. It's that wild. The pace car has been crashed. Every car on the racetrack has been bashed up and mashed in, and there is still 1 hour left to race. Actually, 59 minutes and 17 seconds left of racing. And eyeing each other warily behind the ripped-up pace car. And I guess that pace car did get hit when Mike St. John and the number 08 of Danny Apperson collided. As the pace car pulls away, eyeing each other warily behind them, you've got the 15 of Dwayne Lee, the number 9 of Tunney. This is wild. Now, we've seen occasionally in NASCAR where drivers, or ASA, where drivers kind of come up playing with each other and bump the pace car. And look at the big bumper on the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. That bumper was specifically welded on there for the World Championship. It's already bashed in, and he's got to make that bumper last another hour. Robert Amos has made a pit stop and is going to try to return to the racetrack. Of the contenders that we've seen disappear in this most recent sequence, the guy that suffered the most damage was in the number 4, Rich Fenwick, who had a good chance to win the championship tonight, involved in a slow-speed crash over in turn number 3 that damaged the front of the car. We've heard it might have gotten the rear axle. And so Fenwick is out of the race as we are now 1 minute, make that 2 minutes, into the last hour of the World Championship. Pace car gets out of the way. Pitched battle for first and second place between Dwayne Lee and 15, who now snatches the lead away from the number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr. We'll be double-checking with the scores to find out the status of the other cars and drivers and where they are in relationship to the lead lap, as we're showing the number 3. Watch out, another car has a big water leak on the track. The leaders are going to run into it, and Dwayne Lee hits the water and almost spins. So does Tunney. Everybody manages to keep on going as there's a lot of water on the track, and everybody. Oh, no, the number 79 of got a spin, and he took out Danny Turner, and Dolphy got hit hard by the number 18 of Smith, who also wrecked out the 11 of Ford, and the 5 of Amos. It's a 10-car chain reaction crash that brought out the yellow, also wrecking the 72 of Nelson, the 99 of Box, the number 08 car of Wright, the 15 of Dwayne Lee just barely got through there as well, along with Tunney, the number 98 of McMurtry. A big chain reaction mess over there in turn number 1. And getting torn up, the number 87 of Danny Turner and the number 18 of Rodney Smith. Turner keeps on going, and Dulcie got spun as well. Dulcie spun to a stop, and he got pounded in the back end by the sliding number 18 of Rodney Smith. And Dulcie had already made a lot of pit stops, is driving his car hard, trying to see if it survived that crash without any damage. Looks like Dulcie got lucky and got away from that one fairly clean. will come to green and begin lap number 308. And now Tunney gets the jump on the inside of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee for first place. Going into turns number 1 and 2 of the 309th lap of this race and closing the 6th minute of the final hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Tunney and Lee come out of the 4th turn. They have to check up to keep from hitting the 64 of Steve Reiner, one of the many alternates in this race, and Reiner the 27th alternate. We're now getting to the point where we've had almost 70 cars in this World Championship of Figure 8 racing. The only race in which we have as many, if not more, cars on the race at the end of the race than at the beginning. The number 92 is also on the racetrack. That's the 19th alternate of Jeff Catcher. Looks like he's stalled. Now the leaders are up in there and fighting with the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, and they're coming to a crowded intersection. They aren't going to get on through. How did they get around the number 33 of Doug Gregg and the 87 of Danny Turner? I was waiting for the crash. It never happened. Now the number 3 of Dawsey, who just survived that crash a few seconds ago, is up there to race with these leaders. We have to double check and find out if Dawsey is running on the lead lap. No indication yet from our scores as the leaders charge through an intersection that is clean for the time being. At the intersection, the leaders just barely got around Scott Martin that last time. I believe Dawsey, as he charges around the number 9 of Tunney, is trying to make up a lap or so. Dawsey lost a few laps, I believe, in the multiple pit stops that he made a little earlier. As Dawsey moves back around, we'll have to double check and see if that was the lead for Dawsey. We're waiting for the That puts Jack Dawsey Jr. back on the lead lap. That was an important pass. Our scorers tell us that that did put Dawsey in the number 3 back on the lead lap. So Dawsey is running 3rd place near the tail end of the lead lap. Look at 9, Tunney, and 15, Dwayne Lee, fighting their way into 3 abreast traffic. Above the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, right behind the 66 of Carpenter. Tunney looks for a gap underneath the 27 of Deal and the 1 of Sizemore. The gap works and he keeps on going. But Rodney Sizemore also wants to get a lap back for the number 9 of Tunney and just fails so. And Rodney Sizemore, shaking to the left, bumps into the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. And they move past the 779 of Ray Gaddis, who spun into the infield and just barely out of the way. Working to the 9th minute of this race. 9, Tunney is closing up to the tail end of number 3 of Dawsey. And Dawsey, or rather Tunney and Dwayne Lee get together as Tunney trying to cut down to the inside. Pulled across Dwayne Lee's bow. And now crashing the crossover between Turner and Mike St. John has ripped off the right rear of St. John's car, knocking the former world champion out of the race. There are 2 incidents that happened almost simultaneously. One of them was when the number 9 of Tunney, looking for a gap to the inside, cut his car hard to the right and got hit by Dwayne Lee and spun out. As Tunney recovered and Dwayne Lee went for the lead, there was a crash at the crossover between the number 87 of Danny Turner and Mike St. John, which ripped the entire right rear tire, brake, wheel, and axle assembly out of St. John's car. St. John, the 3-time world champion of Figure 8 racing, looks like he's okay, but his car is all torn up. As you can see, there's nothing there in the right rear corner. Sitting on the other side of the car is the tire, the wheel, the heavy brake assembly, caliper, the rotor, everything, and the entire axle, which is now being loaded onto the Jeep by John Mims, and the axle shaft was bent in the crash. 15 of Dwayne Lee in the lead. The 9 of Tunney was saved by the timing of that yellow because it kept Tunney from losing a lot of ground, and Tunney wins the restart and goes back into first place around the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. This battle between Tunney and Dwayne Lee is turning into an absolutely classic 2-car fight for the lead. Looks like it's going to stay this way all the way to the end as we're midway through the 12th minute of the final hour of this race, and now the leaders come down to finish the 320th lap. How many laps? We don't know. Who's going to win this race? We don't know. Now the 9 of Tunney in a spin at the south end of the racetrack got roughed up, and it looks like the car has been damaged. but Tunney will have to get back running again as we are watching the Tunney car and the lead car get together, and there goes Tunney spinning out for the second time. Tunney waves. He's going to make a pit stop. Tunney's car was damaged. He's out of the race for the time being. That puts Dwayne Lee into the lead. Tunney with the damaged car trying to make a pit stop and get back in the front of the field, but it's going to be a lot of work and not long to get there as Tunney's crew is immediately going to work on the car. So Dwayne Lee has the lead. And here comes Jack Dawsey Jr. in the number 3. Dawsey, who in previous years has played the role of a Michael Andretti, the guy that tried to get onto the racetrack and strangle you by the throat. Instead, by circumstances in this race, has been playing more of the David Pearson or Cale Yarborough or Bob Seneca or Gordon Johncock strategy, or the Al Unser strategy, where you stay in contention and then try to charge back to the front of the field. So Dawsey trying to close up on Dwayne Lee for position. Leader is 5-3 Lee. Second place is 3 Dawsey. And if Dawsey manages to win this one, he'll certainly have pulled a rabbit out of his hat. Tunney's car is still in the pit area. The crew is still working over it, looking for whatever repairs they can make. But it's not looking good for Bill Tunney Jr. right now, as this guy, who is running with the lead pack through 2 hours and 12 minutes of this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, the 13th minute turned out to be the unlucky one. Here comes Matt McFadden at the number 93. We're getting down to the last of the alternates. McFadden, the 31st alternate, running in one of the few World Championships of Figure 8 Racing in which he has ever contended. Now there's Dawsey going into the lead. Dawsey has gotten around Dwayne Lee, and he gets hit and spun out by Ken Carpenter in turn number 1. Now Dawsey got around Dwayne Lee. We understand that was not for first place, but Dawsey, who got around Dwayne Lee, then got hit and spun around by Ken Carpenter, bringing out the yellow. So Dawsey had fought so hard to get around Dwayne Lee for a chance to run in the lead, and then the collision with Carpenter put Dawsey back behind Dwayne Lee again. Carpenter in 66 is okay, but we're going to have ourselves some more repairs to work out. There is a clear and established racing superstition that says if you have a full moon at the racetrack, things are going to start to go wild. The leader is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. We're going to double-check with our scorers here in a couple of seconds to double-check on the lap relationship. There's some indications that Dawsey still has more laps to try to make up before he is running on the lead lap. Dawsey had made up at least one of those laps where he got involved in that spinning collision with Carpenter that put him another lap down. And now Dawsey moves back around Dwayne Lee, but again, it's our indication that is not a race for position at this point in time. So with working here into the 18th minute of the last hour of this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, we have had a lot of drivers who have been contenders and pretenders in this World Championship, and so many of them have fallen by the wayside. The number 9, Bill Tunney Jr., who had been running extremely strong, had been running in the lead, has led more laps of this race than anybody else. That car now sits in the pit area after one collision too many. The number 2 of Mike St. John, with the entire right rear torn off of that machine, is out of the race. The number 33 of Doug Gregg was the leader. He ended up crashing and has fallen some laps down and is still persevering to make laps. The number 9 of Leonard Basham is running strongly here in the front of the race, but he disappeared before the first hour was out. Also drivers that have dropped out. Fred Bear Jr. in an early crossover crash. He took the lead. He dropped back. He wrecked. He's out of the race. Charlie Reed at the number 9 ran strongly for a while, then disappeared and made a pit stop, and we have not seen from him since. Rodney Sizemore, the number 1, had fought to try to come to the front of the field. He's been involved in a whole bunch of melees. He's still running in the top 10, but not within striking distance of the lead. Eddie Van Meter looks good. He's had 2 or 3 crashes, had to make 2 or 3 pit stops for repairs. Van Meter's number 23 car is currently not on the track. Dwayne Lee at the number 15 continues to run in the lead. Pulling away from him is the number 3 of Dawsey, is shown as the second place car. But again, our indication is Dawsey has maybe more laps to make up before he challenged for first place. Now somebody in a big crash, two cars getting together. I think Brigden and the number 70 made it to the 27 of Deal, leaving a big piece of Deal's bodywork on the racetrack, but it's not enough bother to cause ourselves yellow. And we also see the number 59 of Steve Prine got rear-ended. Maybe it was Prine and Deal that got together. Prine's number 59 now limps across the racetrack. He just got married a while or so ago. His car has been shortened up quite a bit with some bodywork damage and some leakage from the car. Prine is off the track and out of the way as the cars, bit by bit, run over the fiberglass that made up part of the body panels of the number 27 of Deal. And there are a couple of other parts there as well that came off of Deal's car. And Dawsey almost cried it with the Sloan car coming out of the intersection, and Sloan almost hit the main stretch wall of the oval course. And at the crossover, still cars are nearly wrecking all over the place. So far, the crossover, by comparison with previous years of the World Championship, has been a peaceful place. The wild action has been in the turns, especially the approach to turn number 1, which has turned out to be a trouble spot this evening at the Indianapolis Speedrome that has triggered at least one wreck of nearly 10 cars. Bruce Cooper's on the track of the number 91, running slow for a moment, as Larry Harris was almost in the middle of a melee, for which I'm sure he wanted no part whatsoever. And the number 5 of Amos turned the number 79 of Gaddis sideways, and then Amos in turn got hit by the number 64 of Bridner, and both of those cars, 5 Amos and number 64 of Bridner, are off the pace, just now getting restarted. And now running into those cars, the number 69 of Canals, who's right across the intersection. Well, here's an important note for somebody out there. Kenny Stern, please come to your car. Kenny Stern, whoever you are, wherever you may come from, whatever you are doing, please come to your car. There's a guy that needs you there real, real bad. As long as your car's not in the World Championship, if that's the case, you'd be out in the middle of the racetrack looking for some place to go. Here's two second-generation drivers, not racing for position, but running hard anyway. Number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, who won the Indianapolis Speedrome Championship last year, came up second this year to Jack Dawsey Jr., just ahead of the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Both of these drivers are second-generation drivers who have been very successful fathers that run here, with Jack Lee being a member of the Speedrome Hall of Fame, and Kenny Sizemore racing competitively up through this year at Indianapolis Speedrome. In fact, Kenny Sizemore, it said, still has a car here that's all but ready to run, but Kenny is not running it this year. Still the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore trying to make up laps with the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. And Dwayne Lee holds on to the lead. Again, we're waiting for our information from the scoring people to get an indication of the lap relationships between those cars. So the indication is from our race officials as Rodney Sizemore and Jack Dawsey Jr. have a narrow escape at the intersection. Here's the way they are running. The leader is the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Jack Dawsey Jr. in the 3 car is 1 or 2 laps down. The officials are going to double-check that. Third place is the number 1R of Rodney Sizemore, who is 5 laps down. Fourth place is the 87 of Danny Turner, who is 9 laps down. And in 5th place is the number 5 of Robert Amos. He's shown as 16 laps down. So there have been a lot of top-notch drivers and contenders who have been involved in a lot of wild melees. So this is the 3rd or 4th time we've seen a car on the racetrack that's leaked a lot of water or oil on the track. Water or oil leaks do not bring out yellow flags in the World Championship or Figure 8 racing, and sometimes the incidents that lead to those that come from those water leaks do bring out yellow flags. So it's all a matter of luck and good timing and other sorts of wild things that happen all the time. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Dwayne Lee finds a gap at the intersection, almost ran right to the side of Kevin Ford's number 11, keeps on going. Dwayne Lee will come out of the left side of your screen. The pack will come out of the right part of your screen, and Dwayne Lee will get through there just before a dozen cars come storming with no pity or remorse whatsoever through the intersection. Now Dwayne Lee almost bounces off the Oaks car as he comes through the intersection and charges into turn number 1, leaving Oaks behind, closing up on a pack of 6 cars that includes the number 1 of Rodney Sizemore, but Rodney's been pulling a good distance ahead of everybody else. Coming onto the racetrack after a long wait is another one of our alternates, Vernikovsky, in the 09. 39th alternate. 67 cars racing so far. Dwayne Lee now moving into that gauntlet of traffic that we mentioned just a couple of minutes ago. Bouncing off the back end of the number 77 of Jack Smith. Hitting Jack Smith and turning him sideways. Dramatic moment as Dwayne Lee has hung up with Jack Smith in that big bump. Dwayne Lee now gets disengaged and Dawsey goes by as Dwayne Lee fights to get his car back in forward gear. Dawsey passed him. That may have put Dawsey on the lead lap, and it could make a dramatic change in the outcome of this World Championship as Dwayne Lee, trying to pass Jack Smith, bumped Smith, turned him around. That huge bumper on Dwayne Lee's car may have caused trouble as number 1 of Rodney Sizemore collides with the 57 of Sloan at the intersection. They disengage and keep on going. We now work to 2 hours and 24 minutes and 38 seconds complete in this 3-hour race. And Dwayne Lee may now be on the same lap with the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. And the gap between first and second place is around a half lap as Dawsey and Lee almost collide in the intersection. As Danny Turner gets turned sideways by Kevin Ford, but both cars seeing their bodywork shredded and all but falling off. As Danny Turner slows to keep from hitting Turner's Murphy, who Turner's running a few lanes ahead of Dawsey, who goes underneath Murphy and tries to put the pressure on Dwayne Lee. So many dramatic and unpredictable changes in this World Championship that saw Turner's Murphy almost slam into the side of Dwayne Lee, who is now right behind the number 87 of Danny Turner. They'll come to the intersection as Dwayne Lee all but pushes Danny Turner through the crossover once again. And just when you think things are calming down, and just when you think things are starting to get almost a little ordinary in the World Championship of Figure 8 racing, the track will bite, the cars will collide, everything will break loose, and you have to hold your breath and wonder, how did we get out of that? There are now drivers that are moving onto the racetrack who have been waiting for 2.5 hours for their chance to get into the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. And one of them has been waiting for a half hour. The number 9 of Bill Tunney Jr., who has come back onto the racetrack after a long and extensive repair that have eliminated any chance that Tunney had of winning his first ever World Championship of Figure 8 racing. As has happened so many times before to Tunney, one wreck too many made the difference, and Tunney is out of the race. Now there's the 11 of 77 of Jack Smith, close to the intersection and just now tiptoes through as the number 15 of Dwayne Lee goes sliding by. 360 laps completed this time by. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee finishes the 360 laps, and here's the number 3 of Dawsey. By my watch, Dawsey is 3.4 seconds back. The question which we're waiting for the scorers to answer is whether or not Dawsey is back on the lead lap or not. Blue 38 Kenny Rackley is caught in the intersection. He gets restarted. No harm, no foul. Now we look for Dwayne Lee coming out of the 4th turn. Dawsey is getting a lot closer to Dwayne Lee this next time by. Again, assuming they're on the same lap, it's 1.7 seconds between first and second, and we're still waiting for indication. Well, Dwayne Lee almost ran into Gaddis. He almost crashed into Norton as Dwayne Lee avoided 2 disasters as Dawsey continues to close in. Again, we're waiting for our scores to give us an indication of whether Dawsey and Lee are on the same lap as Dawsey fights hard to get back into the clutches of the... So the indications are that they are on the same lap now. Our scorers have double-checked it. And so, this is a fight for the lead between Dwayne Lee and the number 15, and trying to chase them down in the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. 2.5 seconds between first and second place in the closing 32 minutes of this race. Dwayne Lee has been the fixture in this lead pack, as has been Dawsey. Dwayne Lee has had a fairly clean time of it. Dawsey has had a couple of spins and wrecks. 1.9 seconds between first and second place. Dwayne Lee takes it easy to the intersection. So does Dawsey, and on their tail is the number 33 of Doug Gregg, who our scorers are showing the 6th place car, but a lot of laps down. Now here's the fight for the lead between first and second place. 7/10 of a second. 2 cars crash. Sikorsky's number 09 and the 54C of Tom Collins, and the leaders almost crash into those stalled cars coming to the intersection. Now they just barely get out of the way as the Collins' car keeps on moving. Here's the fight for the lead. In turn number 2 of lap number 368. Lee in 15 and 3. Dawsey challenge at the intersection and keep on going. And watch out, Rodney Sizemore slamming hard at the crossover into Curtis Murphy's car, trying to find a gap that did not exist and bringing out the yellow flag. Rodney Sizemore took a chance and the chance failed. We have seen this happen to Rodney Sizemore before the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, where he tried to find a gap at the intersection, and there was none. And now as we get set for this one, Dawsey is going to make another pit stop. This is going to be a final moment because Dawsey was running on the lead lap. Here's Dawsey storming his car through the pit area. And here's Dwayne Lee coming around the exit of the pit. Now, here's the situation. Our scorers have told us that Dawsey was on the same lap as Dwayne Lee. He was about 0.7 of a second back. As we see an ambulance being dispatched to check out Rodney Sizemore in the number 1. So here's the pace vehicle leading the field as the ambulance comes out to check out Rodney Sizemore. Now the pace vehicle is slowed down. We're watching to see if Dawsey gets back onto the racetrack. Now Dawsey has only a couple of seconds. When the pace vehicle comes through the area of the third turn, the exit from the pits will be closed. Here's Dawsey now staging up to get back onto the track. And Dawsey will be allowed back onto the racetrack. He'll be at the tail end of the lead lap following the number 33 of Doug Gregg. So Dawsey makes a brief and quick pit stop and will come to the tail end of the lead lap. He has to wait for a couple of cars to give him racing room. So the question is answered. Dawsey will stay on the lead lap after making his 4th or 5th pit stop. So what's the circumstance going to be on this restart with 26 minutes and 50 seconds left in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing? First, let's take a look at your standing. Leader, the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Only other driver on the lead lap is the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. As Rodney Sizemore goes off on the hook, goes off on the gurney, he'll be checked out, but again, looks like he's in fairly good shape, all things considered. Again, leader 15, Dwayne Lee. Second place, 3, Jack Dawsey Jr. Rodney Sizemore crashed out of 3rd place. 4th place, the number 87 of Danny Turner. 5th place, 33, Doug Gregg. 6th place, number 5, Robert Amos. 7th place, 75, Scott Martin. 8th place, 9, Bill Tunney Jr. 9th place, 2, Mike St. John. 10th place, 02 of Jerry Whitten. 11th place, unofficially, the number 12 of Charlie Oakes. 12th place, 4, Rich Benemick. 13th place, 38, Rackley. 14th place, 779, Gaddis. And Gaddis, remember, was the 36th starter, and he's moved up to 14th place. 15th place, the number 74 of Curtis Murphy. And Murphy started 2 positions behind Gaddis and started running currently and officially in 16th place, the number 72 of Mike Nelson. 17th place, 18, Rodney Smith. 18th place, the 44B of Curtis Bilbrey. 19th place, the number 23 of Eddie Van Meter. And in 20th place would be the number 69R, the 69N rather, of R.J. Norton. Now, what about the rookies in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, of which there are about 7? One of the rookies is the number 11, Andy Rice. One of the last alternates has not come onto the racetrack. Marvin Owens Jr. in the number 53 has come out and made some laps, but has come back to the pits. Mike Haskett in the number 55 may have made as many laps as any rookie at the racetrack tonight, although we look and Haskett is not racing there right now. Tim Carney in the number 64X came out, maybe made 2 laps and disappeared, not to be seen again. Bruce Cooper is trying to make some laps up in the big Oldsmobile Cutlass number 91. Eddie Simpson in number 91X. We aren't seeing him on the track because the number 27 of Eddie Deal has Simpson's motor in his car. And then you've got Bob Johnson in the number 92X. We have not seen that car on the track right now. So it could be that Haskett in the number 55 is your leading candidate for Rookie of the Year for the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Pace car is told to get out of the way. Dulcie and Doug Gregg tried to bust their way up through the pack, but they literally got caught by the other cars as they run in 4 abreast racing, and Dwayne Lee runs free in the number 15. But the story will be in the middle of the pack as 2 cars get together out of turn number 2. The number 67 of Dameron got turned sideways right ahead of the number 3 of Dulcie. Now, Dulcie wouldn't mind seeing a yellow caused by this because that would allow Dulcie to pick up a lot of ground, but instead, Dameron gets the 67 out of the way, and instead that leaves Dwayne Lee to fight through some intensely heavy traffic looking for position. 23 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the World Championship for 1995. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee comes across the stripe. The number 3 of Jack Dulcie Jr. within 2 lanes at one point is 5.5 seconds back, but there's still a lot of ground to go. And as we watch the racing, well, here's a couple of very important notes from our pit office. Lori McHenry, you're needed in the pit office. Lori McHenry, you're needed in the pit office. And here's a note. Watch out, Dwayne Lee almost got smashed by the 33 of Doug Gregg. Dan Hoffman, your wife is having a baby, go home. Dan Hoffman, your wife is having a baby, go home. Now, why would you, when your wife is in labor, come out here to the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing instead of being with your wife? I mean, there's such a thing as being a race fan, then there's such a thing as being crazy. Speaking of insanity, here's Jack Dulcie Jr. barely surviving that run through the intersection, and look at Dulcie. He was 5.5 seconds back a couple of seconds ago, a couple of laps ago. Now, with Dwayne Lee having trouble in traffic, he's closed it down to 1.5 seconds. Dwayne Lee has to wait for traffic at the intersection. Dulcie has not lifted the throttle, I think, for the last couple of minutes. 22 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in the World Championship. Dulcie is closed down to 1 length going into the first turn. Dulcie has Dwayne Lee caught above the slower car. Goes to the inside, takes the lead in turn number 2 of lap number 361. Dulcie then has to hit the brakes hard because he's right in the middle of a melee of cars, 2 abreast, 10 cars deep, going into the first turn. And Dwayne Lee hit Dulcie, shoved Dulcie into R.J. Norton, almost knocked Norton silly. Both cars keep on going in turn 2 of lap number 362, with Dulcie shown as the leader in the number 15. Dwayne Lee on his tail in number 15. Was Dulcie's car damaged, or they just caught in so much traffic? Dwayne Lee is caught running into Jack Smith again. Dulcie is trapped by the number 4 of Fenwick, and Dwayne Lee goes back into the lead in turn number 1 and 2 of lap number 363. It's a fight for survival and supremacy in heavy traffic. 3 abreast in turn number 3. Dulcie to the top side of the racetrack, noses ahead of Dwayne Lee, takes the lead back as they almost hit number 38 of Brackley, coming out of turn number 4 in an intense battle for the victory with 20 minutes and 50 seconds. And Dulcie knocks the number 1 of Wisman out of the way, and now Dwayne Lee has run on top of R.J. Norton's car coming through the intersection. Unless Dwayne Lee can get out of the way fast, that could cement. Oh no, Dulcie got hit by Whitman, and I don't believe it. Dulcie got hit by Whitman, and that took Dulcie out of the race. The top 2 cars have been wrecked as Dulcie was hit by Whitman after Whitman wrecked Dulcie. Now Dulcie is chasing Wisman back into the pit area in one of the strangest events in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And now another crash as the leaders are trying to catch up with the pace car. The pace car is trying to pick up somebody as the leader, but the 2 leaders have been wrecked. Dulcie had first place. You saw Dulcie shove the number 1 of Wisman out of the way. Wisman under the yellow came back and wrecked Dulcie. And then Dwayne Lee, in the collision with R.J. Norton, is on top of Norton's car. So the lap count has stopped. Now here's the rule. The wrecker can pull those cars apart, but when they put the cars down, Dwayne Lee's got to be able to drive away. Otherwise, that car has to automatically go back into the pit area. So what about the 3rd place car? It could be the 1R of Rodney Sizemore, but Sizemore's out. It could be the number 87 of Danny Turner. Turner is still on the racetrack. So will Dulcie come back in time to race for the lead? Will Dwayne Lee's car be brought back down to earth in time to race the lead? This is the key moment of the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. It's not happening under full speed. It's happening with a wrecker, which lowers Dwayne Lee's car gently back down. Now, will Dwayne Lee be able to run after he got into the number 69 of Norton? Here's Dawsey, having made the repairs, coming back onto the track. And Dwayne Lee pulls away. He's still ready. After one of the strangest incidents in the history of the World Championship, these two guys will have to double check. Here it is. Dawsey has the lead, and Dwayne Lee is said to be still on the lead lap. I don't believe it. They survived a crash, and they're still racing for position at the lead. Here's what happened. Dwayne Lee came, in fact, that's the exact circumstance. They are running on the lead lap because just as Dawsey came out after making his pit stop, Dwayne Lee came across the line. So they are still racing for the lead on the restart after one of the wildest incidents of the World Championship history. Here's 3, Dawsey, and 15, Dwayne Lee. Both cars having been wrecked just a couple of minutes ago in heavy traffic. And they're underway and fighting for the lead once again in the middle of incredibly heavy traffic that's almost stopped in front of them. Right behind Jerry Brown to the number 44. Brown here at the Indianapolis Speedrome tonight is celebrating his birthday. Again, the leader is the number 3 of Dawsey. Second place is 15, Dwayne Lee. Neither driver gained an advantage or a disadvantage in that wreck. And I still don't believe how that turned out. Dawsey now pulls away from Dwayne Lee. Was Lee's car damaged in that crash, or is Dawsey just getting the break in traffic? Dawsey out of the 4th turn. Heavy traffic, and Dawsey has to hit the brakes. He's in the middle of 4-brush traffic, taking some massive chances. But Dawsey has himself a 3-length advantage. Make it 5 lengths as he almost hits the number 54C of Collins. And Dwayne Lee is just having no luck whatsoever with traffic here with 16 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 racing. My stopwatch shows the gap between 1st and 2nd place at 3 seconds. Heavy traffic. Car stopped at the intersection. Here comes Dawsey. He almost got hit by 5 cars, and he kept on going. There are still stopped cars at the intersection as Dawsey comes out of turn number 4 and somehow holds on to the lead. Well, we may come down to yellow depending on what happens to these 2 cars, to Garrigus and the number 01 car of Wright. Wright keeps on going. Garrigus is still stopped at the number 84. Let's see if Garrigus is going to move or if we're going to stay in the green for the closing parts as Larry Harris gets turned sideways by the number 64 of Reidner. The 3 of Dawsey is making the better moves through traffic. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee is 2.7 seconds back with 15 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the World Championship. And now 4 cars have almost crashed out of turn number 2. Here's Dawsey trying to find a gap ahead of those cars that are slowed or stopped. And Dwayne Lee, it is becoming obvious, is not able to run at the same speed he was before. Dwayne Lee is further and further back. 5.9 seconds back as we come to the 3rd turn of the 394th lap. Again, it looks more and more as if the number 84 of Garrigus has stalled as Dawsey holds on to the advantage. Dwayne Lee falling further and further behind with a car damaged after the collision with Norton. 7.2 seconds back now. As Dawsey pulling away, looking for his 3rd consecutive World Championship of Figure 8 racing. Now trouble as Larry Harris gets hit and spun out by the number 27 of Deal. And here's Dwayne Lee almost hitting Dawsey at the intersection as Dawsey is picking up the pace. 10 seconds ahead right now. So Dawsey, obviously, in that exchange of crashes, came out of the car that was in the better shape. Dwayne Lee not able to maintain the same pace he was before the crash. And Dwayne Lee falling. Oh, Dawsey ran into the number 70 of Rigdon. That cut down his tire. Dawsey hit Rigdon and cut his tire. And now Dwayne Lee will come to the lead as Dawsey, with 1 crash too many, takes over 1st place after Dawsey hit Rigdon with a 10-second lead. Dawsey crashed a slower car. Here we are with 13 minutes and 35 seconds left to go. Dwayne Lee ran right over the first turn marker tire. Almost tore out the bottom of his car. We've got 3 or 4 cars that are stalled near the intersection. Dawsey quickly making the pit stop as here comes his best friend, Dennis Wistman, back onto the racetrack. So, 1 lap down goes Dawsey in the number 3. He has still not returned to the racetrack. Dwayne Lee working turn number 2 in heavy traffic with a damaged car, but in the lead of the World Championship as Dawsey still has not appeared as Danny Turner hit the number 9 of Tunney, who then took out the number 23 of Van Meter, and Tunney will have to try to get restarted. Dwayne Lee finishes another lap. Dawsey is 2 laps down. As Tunney gets restarted, he figures he's got nothing more to lose. Dwayne Lee comes through turn number 3 and 4. It's almost a parking lot at the intersection. There are 10 or 12 cars stopped at the crossover. Here comes your leader. Where will he go? He cuts straight through the intersection, and Dawsey is 3 laps down. There's Dawsey coming back onto the racetrack 2 or 3 laps down after that flat tire. 400 laps completed. 12 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. And Dawsey in the 3 is 3 laps down as it's turning into a parking lot. There are cars stopped all through the intersection. They're stopped 4 and 5 abreast. And Dwayne Lee will have no place to go. Here comes Lee looking at the stopped cars. Cutting through the intersection, he found the only room there was and kept on going. He runs over the marker tire, risking further damage to his already bent up front end. And mark it down with 12 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the race. The last alternate, the 45th alternate, Andy Rice, the number 11A, moves onto the track. So Dwayne Lee looking for his second world championship of figure 8 racing with the advantage of 3 laps over the number 3 of Jack Dawsey Jr. Now it's Dawsey who's caught in the incredibly heavy traffic with no place to go. And Dawsey cutting to the inside of 3 and 4 abreast traffic. Running hard, trying to make up what he had and lost several times. Dwayne Lee now with a 3-lap advantage. His only opposition now are the cars on the racetrack. He has got to survive. He does not have to run fast. He just has to keep on going. But if you know racers, they'll keep on trying to find a way to run and wreck one way or the other. 10 minutes and 45 seconds to go in the World Championship for 1995. Dwayne Lee looks for room at the intersection. There almost was no room in 4 abreast racing through the crossover. And now, number 59 is Steve Prine, ran all over the number 25 of Kurt Bilbrey. But both cars keep on going. Doug Griggs almost stops the intersection, going ahead of Box and Wright. And Ryder in 64 looks for someplace to go. Look at this, Rigdon, risking his life, is pushing the number 84 out. And now a crash between the 25 of Bilbrey and the number 87 of Turner, as both cars are trying to come off the track at the same time through the pit gate, and Turner keeps on going. And now collision that almost takes out Dwayne Lee at the crossover again with the number 09 car of Vernikovsky. And Vernikovsky trying to get his car restarted. Oh no, Vernikovsky, here's the entire field coming straight into Vernikovsky's face. He's not going to make it. It's Vernikovsky's last race. Oh no, he made it. He made it. Vernikovsky got out of the way. We thought it was all over for Vernikovsky, but he got restarted the last second, and finally, we're going to bring it down to yellow. 9 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in one of the wildest ever World Championships of figure 8 racing that saw leader taken out under caution. In a World Championship of figure 8 racing that saw the guy that was in the lead on top of another car lowered down on by a wrecker and lost only 1 position as a result, then saw himself back in the lead when the leader hit a slower car with a 10-second lead. 8 minutes and 55 seconds left to go in the World Championship. Leader 15, Dwayne Lee. Second place, 3, Jack Dawsey Jr. Third place, 87, Danny Turner. Fourth place, 33, Doug Gregg. Unofficially fifth place, 1R Rodney Sizemore. Sixth place, 75, Scott Martin. Seventh place, 9, Bill Tenney Jr. Eighth place, 5, Robert Amos. Ninth place in 0-2, Jerry Witten. And 10th place, the number 2 of Mike St. John. We'll come to the restart here very shortly, maybe one lap or so before we go back to racing. Seven minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the World Championship as the green flag flies. 87, Danny Turner manages to get another lap away from the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. Jack Dawsey Jr. in four-first racing as Cooper gets hit and spun out and drifts across the racetrack, almost trapping 3 or 4 other cars. Cooper in number 91, nose-to-nose with Dan Wright's OA car. Now they get disengaged and keep rolling again as Dwayne Lee holds on to the lead. And Dawsey has 2 more laps to make up. There's always the outside chance that Dawsey could make up those laps and come up to challenge Dwayne Lee again, because Lee is really taking it easy, letting Danny Turner run ahead of him as far as I can tell, and letting Turner set the pace. 6 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in this year's World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Cars are stopped 6 abreast of the intersection. The leaders are trying to find a path through. Dwayne Lee follows Danny Turner, and the number 9 of Tunney gave both of those leaders racing room. And Dawsey went almost to the start-finish line, headed northbound to try to get around to these cars. Now Dawsey is trapped by Brown and the number 95 of Rio, losing more ground to the leaders. Dawsey tried to go to the outside, found 2 cars trying to leave the track, and had to stop to keep from smashing into them. And now Dawsey almost ran into the 87 of Turner and the number 15 of Dwayne Lee. 6 minutes and even. 6 minutes even now to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, with Dwayne Lee in the number 15 in heavy traffic, squirting from between Rackley and Amos, still with 2.5 laps over the number 3 of Dawsey. Dawsey, whose car is all torn up. Dawsey has already had himself a bad week as far as bodywork in that car. He had part of the bodywork torn off in a collision with Charlie Reed during the Figure 8 hot laps on Friday night. Dawsey right behind the number 23 of Van Meter. Van Meter also led this race, also had his car shredded a couple of times. Now Van Meter stops at the intersection as Dawsey keeps on going underneath the equally pink number 779 of Ray Gaddis. Gaddis had a pink car first. Dwayne Lee leading, running with escorts, number 87 Danny Turner and the number 4 of Fenwick, as we see a car spinning out of turn number 2. It's not a major deal. In fact, it is Eddie Deal, not major deal, but Eddie Deal. He gets restarted. There's the number 15 of Dwayne Lee through the intersection. Watches the number 4 Fenwick makes the pass. I don't think Lee could really fight him off of that potentially damaged car. 4 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Holding up for the traffic are Fenwick and Turner, and Lee keeps on going. Lee finishes lap number 420 in heavy traffic. He holds up and almost gets hit by 5 directions and 6 cars. And now Dwayne Lee has to watch out he doesn't get hit by the number 72 of Mike Nelson. Dawsey in number 3, ever since the restart, has been trying to catch up to Dwayne Lee to get his 2 laps back. Still something possible even in the closing minutes of this race, and not able to do so. As we see the 09 car of Vernikowski with a lot of sparks coming out from under. There may not be a Kopsky driving the car. There was another guy that qualified that machine, Gary Early, who may be in it. Oh no, Kim Gibson almost took out the number 23 of Van Meter. And there's Dawsey almost running into the number 87 of Turner. 3 minutes and 55 seconds left to go in the World Championship. Dwayne Lee has a 2-lap advantage in the number 15 car over Dawsey. Dwayne Lee letting 87 of Danny Turner run ahead of him in the same way that a running back in football lets a lineman or a tight end or a fullback serve as his blocker through the defensive field. Dwayne Lee lets Turner go on ahead in this heavy crossover traffic and keeps on going and finds that Turner is a pretty good lead blocker, and there's no worry there for Dwayne Lee. Lee's thinking, hey, I could use Danny for this all the time. Now let's see who her lead blocker he is, as Dwayne Lee is split from his lead blocker by a whole bunch of traffic, including Dawsey's number 3 car. Dawsey keeps on racing in there with the number 11 of Kevin Ford. But again, Dawsey, in this last sequence of racing, has been able to get no closer to Dwayne Lee, as Dawsey's good luck may have run out Bad luck also for the number 33 of Doug Gregg, who will be coming into the pit area with a flat tire on the left or on the right rear. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in this contest. We're getting down to the end game of this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. The number 15 of Dwayne Lee has the advantage. Again, 2 laps, and he's trying to survive this race, as Dwayne Lee has already had 1 major accident and keeps on going. The crossover is where this one will be decided, with 2.5 minutes left to go in the World Championship. Again, the end of the World Championship race is the checkered flag. The display of that checkered flag is decided by the flagman after the clock shows 0. As cars run 4 abreast in the first turn, out of the 4th turn, Dwayne Lee has that phalanx of traffic ahead of him, and one of those cars ahead of him, the number 72, Mike Nelson, has had the rear bumper torn off and now bumps with the number 69 of Dale Canal. Dawsey still desperately trying to catch up to the number 15 of Dwayne Lee, make up 2 laps. Dawsey throws his car into the intersection and finds a tiny gap. 1 minute and 50 seconds left to go in 1995's World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. Dawsey continues to race hard, hoping for the miracle that may happen. Hoping for the miracle that may not happen. Dawsey may have already used up his luck. In number 15, Dwayne Lee crawls through the intersection. Dawsey with a faster pace, trying to get it to the point where he's only 1 lap down. Coming up on 15, Dwayne Lee, with 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go. It's Dawsey's number 3, cutting through the intersection, almost hit the number 70 of Brigden. The collision with Brigden sent Dawsey into the pit area with a flat tire that cost him the lead and may have cost him the World Championship. Now, 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, as the number 15 of Dwayne Lee runs out of turn number 2. Taking it easy with a 2-lap lead over Dawsey. 1 minute left to go in the World Championship as Dwayne Lee runs two turns and 2 laps ahead of Dawsey as Dwayne Lee takes it easy. It's going to get to the point where Dwayne Lee will be able to clinch the championship because Dawsey couldn't make up the 2 laps even if Lee stopped. But that is not going to stop either car or driver as Dwayne Lee finishes 429 laps with 40 seconds left to go in the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. And Dwayne Lee is reaching that point where he will watch for the checkered flag and the victory in the World Championship regardless of what happened as Dwayne Lee bounces off the number 69 of Canals out of turn number 2 with 20 seconds left to go in the World Championship. There's Dwayne Lee just ahead of Dawsey. Dawsey 2 laps down would like to pass Dwayne Lee at least for pride as they're moving past Tunney. The early Luke Gibson ran over the 69 of Canals as Canals slowed up for Tunney, but both cars keep on going with 4 seconds left to go. 2 seconds left to go. 3 hours have been counted. Now watch for the checkered flag. Here it is for Dwayne Lee, the 1995 World Championship of Figure 8 Racing, winning the World Championship by 2 laps over the 2-time defending champion, Jack Dawsey Jr. And Dwayne Lee and Jack Dawsey Jr. continue to race to and beyond the checkered flag. So Jack Dawsey Jr., who had won everything there was to win in the world of Figure 8 Racing this time, has to go home a little disappointed. But there are no losers in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. All of these brave drivers, all of these incredible performers, as Dwayne Lee takes his victory spin. All of these drivers who survived through the World Championship of Figure 8 Racing have proved a point that they are among the toughest that American motorsports has to offer. They are among the bravest, those that persevere the greatest, as Dwayne Lee, who won the World Championship in 1992, does another victory spin, celebrating his return to the premier level of the world of Figure 8 competition. And Dale Canals comes across the line with the entire left side of that car shredded as Dwayne Lee goes on a well-deserved and sweet victory lap. A victory lap that includes several victory spins in the same way that the fighter pilots of World War II took their victory rolls after vanquishing the enemy. Dwayne Lee takes his victory spin and celebrates his triumph in this World Championship of Figure 8 Racing. In a moment, we will open up the pit area. As soon as the racing area is secured, we will open up the pit area for you to have a chance to visit all of these great drivers at the Indianapolis Speedrome. We'll open up the pit area as soon as we get all of the cars from this World Championship off the track. And as the Dwayne Lee crew comes charging out, here he is, your world champion, Dwayne the General Lee. Al, you're going to have a hard time. Your winner is being mobbed by his crew, his friends, his family, and his fans. You're going to have to dig in there and drag Dwayne Lee out to take the celebration and talk to the fans. I mean, he has been buried by his supporters. He's tired, but he's as happy as we've ever seen a guy in American automobile racing. Dwayne Lee had this race won, lost it, had it won, lost it again. Now, for the second time in his career, is the world champion.
That's right. Woo! In one of the wildest figure-8 races ever held at the Indianapolis Speedrome, the 19th Annual World Championship 3-hour figure-8 goes to Dwayne Lee. And who would have believed it with all the trouble Dwayne Lee had? I'm going to turn this over to Jim Fox for the presentation.
Congratulations, Dwayne. Excellent job. You had some clean track at the beginning. You had a very unfortunate accident, but very fortunately, your car stayed together. You didn't break any tie rods. You came back. And Jack Dawsey was coming hard on you. You had to keep driving because Jack was on your tail and coming back, but you held off. You did an excellent job. You should be commended. Thank you, Dwayne. It was an excellent race. And I'd like to present you with a trophy for the 19th Annual 3-hour endurance race. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Jim. I tell you what, Jack did have the best car out here tonight. No about, you know, but he had a little bit more trouble than I did. I want to thank God because he's the one that brought me through this tonight. Hey, I don't know how many times I got in trouble and I was on top of cars and everything else. I just tried to keep the car going. And the grace of God, it kept together. And I just want to thank all my crew because 2 weeks ago we totaled this car and they put it back together. They spent 2 weeks. This is the second race since it's been put back together, and it's a damn good car.
Dwayne, this is your first win since 1992. It ends the string of Jack Dawsey Jr.'s 2 wins in a row. You outfought Bill Tunney Jr. a hard battle early on, and then with just about 15 or 20 minutes to go, you're on top of another car, dead still.
Yeah, it was a fast pace from the get-go. I can't believe it. I was trying to get these guys to slow down, but everybody was wanting to take turns, and they were wanting to lead real fast pace. But I want to thank all my sponsors, Huber Chevrolet, Fisher's Contractors, Progressive Plating, all the guys. I probably forgot a few, but I tell you what, without the sponsors, you can't go racing, and this is what it's all about right here to come and put on a show for you fans.
All right, it takes a lot of support, but Dwayne Lee was the guy that put his foot in it when he had to. He is your 1995 World Champion Figure 8 driver.
I also want to thank Fred Emery for putting a good motor together for me because Fred went through this motor and put the real good motor together for this race today. Thanks.
There is Dwayne Lee. He won it in 1992, and he completes the most laps of any winner since 1983 as the pace was fast, furious, and wild in the 1995 World Championship 3-hour figure 8. The 19th annual, Dwayne Lee wins $9,000 this year. Next year, for the 20th anniversary race, the winner's purse will be $10,000. Again, our congratulations to Dwayne Lee, your 1995 World Figure 8 champion.